When the clock hits 0, we bring you overtime. Take it away, boys.
Well, the clock hasn't quite hit 0 just yet. There's 18 seconds on the clock in Santa Clara at Levi's Stadium. The Niners offense is getting set to take the field, down 6. No timeouts left. They need a miracle here, and we'll talk you through the final 18 seconds. But it is looking like the 49ers very well could lose without allowing a touchdown. The Los Angeles Rams have 4 field goals for their 12 points. The Niners, 6 points through 2 field goals. And the Niners are in danger of dropping to 6-8. The kickoff happening as we speak. We'll let you know if anything crazy happens. But guys, welcome into overtime. It's Mark Randy with you. We'll hear from Sterling Bennett and Kyle Madsen in just a moment. Deebo Samuel did take the kickoff out of the end zone and returned it out to the... I'm not sure how far he returned it, but there is a flag. We'll keep you updated on that. But guys, regardless of what happens here, just an absolutely rough effort from the 49ers offense. The defense was awesome. They hold the Rams to only 12 points, and the Niners need a miracle to win this game at home.
No, it's perfect. This is the perfect way to end this season. Like, they didn't need any more hope. They didn't deserve to be any good. They didn't deserve to be 7-7 and like, oh, hey, look, they're getting guys. I know, man. They were bad for most of this year, and they were the worst version of that bad tonight. Drops. I thought Brock Purdy was abominable. The offensive line wasn't great. You had penalty issues. It was just all the things that have plagued this team all year wrapped up into one. And I think my favorite part about it is that there's no reason to be like, oh, hey, maybe this just needs a little tweak. Like, no, whatever they're doing offensively needs a massive overhaul. This isn't working anymore. And whatever Shanahan was doing at the beginning of the game, trying to get Deebo Samuel involved, dude, to hell with that. It's not working. That guy stinks. He's not good at football anymore. I don't understand why they're wasting drives early in this game when your defense is cooking, by the way. I don't understand why they're wasting time trying to get Deebo Samuel the ball because he did a tweet. I don't know about you guys. That doesn't make sense to me. That I every time they started to hand him the ball, it was this is going nowhere. This is a waste of time. You're wasting this play. You're not going to get to 2nd and short or 3rd and short by doing this. First 3rd and 6 of the game, and you hand it off to the guy who's averaging 0.6 yards a carry? It's ludicrous, dude. They deserve to lose this game. I'm happy they lost this game, and I hope that they undergo the necessary soul-searching this offseason to figure out whatever the hell is wrong with them.
Yeah, Sterling, I'll hand this off to you in just a sec, but the Niners do get the ball at midfield after a decent Deebo Samuel kickoff return and then a horse collar tackle. They have 11 seconds to work with after an incompletion for Brock Purdy, but it is second. It'll be 2nd and down after that, but from the 50-yard line. But overall, Sterling, even if there was something that crazy that happens here down the stretch, this was a bad effort all the way around for the 49ers on the offensive side of the football.
So we're just crossing off the idea of a Brock Purdy 50-yard Hail Mary for a touchdown? Hey, if Jaden Daniels can do it, no, I'm just kidding. But no, you guys are right. It's a last-place team, and in the biggest game of the year, where you have a smidge of a chance to come back and maybe make the playoffs, the offense puts together a last-place effort. 6 points? 6 points.
Yeah, against a defense that just gave up 42 points last week.
Brock's throwing unnecessary bad interceptions. He's missing high. He's missing low. Oh, and I get it. It's raining. You want to pay that guy $65 million a year? Okay, Brock's a pretty good quarterback, but he ain't a great quarterback right now. And again, the biggest game of the year, the most clutch you have to be, where you have to make the right throws in the one drive where you're finally putting something together. You hit Pearsall, you hit Kittle, Grando's running well, you're cooking. Okay, here is where the Niners offense is going to show up. What happens? You lay a turd on Thursday Night Football with the season on the line.
Oof.
Brock was terrible. Debo was terrible. You want to make tweaks? How dare you? How dare you ask for the football more when every time you touch it, 3 yards, 2 yards, 1 yard, you get called for a holding. You drop arguably a touchdown that would have been the difference in this football game. You want to talk about being clutch, being wide receiver number 1. You're the wide back. Hey, Kyle, feed me more. I don't want to feed you at all, brother. You don't deserve the football. You don't deserve to tweet it out. Take his phone away. Make him sit on the bench the rest of the year if they're going to put that performance together in the biggest game of the season.
Yeah, it's official, by the way. Brock Purdy on 2nd and 10 after a deep incompletion to Ricky Pearsall was sacked. The clock runs out. Niners have no timeouts because they needed them to get the defense off the field. And the final score in Santa Clara at Levi Stadium, the Rams 12, the 49ers 6. The Niners are 6-8. The Rams are 8-6. Niners postseason chances are not 100% gone, but for all intents and purposes, this season is over for the San Francisco 49ers. Welcome to Overtime. Mark Randy, Kyle Madsen, Sterling Bennett with you. We're here for you all night long. Give us a call, shoot us a text on the Comcast Business text line, 888-957-9570. The Niners led this game for decent chunks. They scored first. They took a lead early in the third quarter. The Rams, though, finished with 3 field goals. They scored the final 9 points of this football game. No touchdowns in this game, but the Rams got it done when they needed to, and it puts a damper on what was a fun day to begin because Dre Greenlaw came back. Nick Bosa returned. Talanoa Hufanga was playing great in the first half. Guys, there was also no surprise that when this Rams offense looked the best, it was when, unfortunately, Dre Greenlaw had to sit on the bench for the majority of the second half. The second he goes out, the Rams are able to put together scoring drives, and they did 3 of them in the second half, all without Dre Greenlaw on the field, at least in the tail end of that first scoring drive. The 17-play, 65-yard drive that took nearly 10 minutes off the clock. Greenlaw looked awesome in the first half, but he could not finish in the second half. The Rams take advantage, and they basically end the Niners season with a 12-6 win.
191 total yards of offense at home in a game where you're facing one of the worst defenses in football. In a game where your defense holds the opponent to 0 for 3 in the red zone, 4 of 15 on third down the Rams were. And the 49ers offense, the brilliance that is the 49ers offense, the cutting edge, that you can't stop it. Look at them go. They just get downhill and they run. And, oh, man, you get 6 points? So what you got? If you told me you put up this defensive performance against the Rams, I'd have been like, man, another 49ers get-right game. They just might do this thing. And they scored 6 points, dude. I'm sorry. I'm ready to scrap everything offensively right now. I know I'm being emotional and it's knee-jerk reactions and stuff, but I don't know who or what they need to change this offseason, especially offensively. But it's back to the drawing board for Kyle Shanahan, man. And if anybody's calling in saying like you got to fire this guy, it's really hard to push back on that after they did this in the biggest game of the year against one of the worst defenses in the league. I don't have any answers. They were atrocious. And when you start spinning this forward and you start looking at the quarterback, where are you guys? I'm not giving Brock Purdy any contract this offseason. I don't like, no, you don't. No, he's going to take $30 million a year. Yeah, here, go ahead. Yeah, you can have that. But what has he done to prove that he can be anything more than an average ass quarterback when he doesn't have Deebo Samuel playing at elite level, when he doesn't have Brandon Ayuk playing like an all-pro, when he doesn't have Christian McCaffrey playing like the offensive player of the year, when he doesn't have George Kittle playing like a first-team all-pro, when he doesn't have Trent Williams as a first-team all-pro? What is he's proven that in a more and the environment that the 49ers offense is for a quarterback right now is way more normal. They're not a bad offense. They're not a bad group of players, but they're a pretty normal group of players. And Brock Purdy looks astonishingly average, and tonight, frankly, far below that. I can't justify giving him paying him.
Maybe not $65 million. And I think maybe I'm with you, Kyle, in regards to saying, okay, I got to see more. Like, you've proven you can be great when everything's right. You've proven at times you can be great when things aren't just right. But over the course of the season, without Christian McCaffrey and Trent Williams, like you said, no Brandon Ayuk, you can't find Ricky Pearsall twice in a game. You can't feed George Kittle more than about 4 or 5 times tonight. Deebo Samuel, again, we already talked about him, how bad he was. But when you talk about Brock Purdy specifically, I am leaning more towards letting him play out his contract or franchise tagging him after next year, because I got to see more. Now, I'm not out on Brock. I'm not saying he can't be that guy, but when you talk about potentially giving a player the largest contract in NFL history, You got to know that guy can pick you up when nothing is going right. When in a year like this, Murphy's Law, everything that can go wrong is going to go wrong. That guy's going to save your season. And unfortunately, Brock, maybe outside of Deebo Samuel, looked like the worst player on the field tonight. And we've never said that before. But when that's a quarterback of your team in the biggest game of the year, that's the last thing you want to say when you're looking at the offseason being like, hey, $65 million, ring the bell, here we come. I'm not too sure anymore.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely not a record-breaking contract coming up for Brock Purdy this offseason. That seems pretty clear. I don't know if the 49ers want to get into a staring match with potentially the guy they still view as their franchise quarterback and say, play your last year out, and then we'll franchise tag you, and then he might refuse to play. That seems to be a little bit messy, but I agree 100% that he's not getting a record-breaking contract. The question is, where do these two teams settle? And it's going to be an interesting conversation to have in this entire offseason, because you guys are right. Brock was not good today, not at all. 14 for 31, 142, no touchdowns and one interception, and the one interception basically ended the game because, at that point, your defense is already tired. It's a short week. You're without Greenlaw, who could not play for the majority of the second half. You needed to score points, at least to tie the game on that last offensive drive, and you were moving the ball well. For some reason, Brock Purdy, instead of taking the check down as you had been doing for the majority of that drive, check it down. He had Pearsall open over the middle. He had Garendo open over the middle. He decided to take a deep shot. I don't know if there was miscommunication between him and Juwan Jennings down the right sideline. Juwan was nowhere near where the ball went. Maybe it was just an absolute terrible throw by Brock. Maybe it was miscommunication. I'm not so sure. We will wait to hear what he had to say post-game. But that's just a back-breaking mistake that, simply put, you cannot have on a team like the Niners, who are facing an uphill climb at this point of the season. You cannot turn the ball over in that moment. This was an offense that scored 38 points last week against a Bears defense that, not a good defense by any stretch, but neither are the Rams. Not a very good defense either. This was a team that you should have been able to put points on. And there's blame to go around elsewhere. You guys talked about Deebo already. Totally fair. You talked about Kyle Shanahan already. Totally fair as well. But Brock Purdy deserves to shoulder a lion's worth of the blame, because when you're the quarterback, that's just how it goes. Brock Purdy, flat out, plain and simple, was very, very bad today. There's no way around it.
Yeah, man. And the worst part about it is the throws were there to be made. He just missed some of them, and missed them bad in some cases. And that's why, to me, one bad throw, two bad throws, yeah, you're going to miss a deep shot here and there. But it was like anything over 15 yards down the field was just no dice. It's underthrown, it's behind the receiver, and you can't. That's where I have a problem. Like, quarterbacks are going to have bad games. It's whatever. But in a game like this where, hey, you know what? Number 13, this is on you. You got to make a play. You got to make a throw. George Kittle's open deep. Deebo Samuel, the deeper throw down the middle to Deebo Samuel, like, that was there. If he gets it out in front a little bit, it's there, but it was behind him and underthrown. The
Pearsall throw down the middle before the Juwan interception, that's a touchdown if you lead him perfectly. Yep. Pearsall had him beat. And I saw this stat. Let me find it here. The Niners did not get the ball back again, so this stat is still accurate. Brock Purdy tonight on throws 20-plus yards downfield, 0 for 7, 1 interception. Did not complete a single pass 20 or more yards down the field. That's what the Niners offense has become at times this year. And
that's what I don't get. Like, on all of those on all those deep shots, it's like there's throws available over the middle, man. There's shorter throws to take. You don't have to get all of this at once. And it's like, for some reason, that's what the Niners offense devolved into this year, and I don't quite understand it. For me, that's the number one thing. Like, if I'm picking things that I would like to see change over the offseason, the number one thing for me would be getting back to the layups for the quarterback, getting back to those easy throws, getting back to not needing to push everything down the field. And maybe that's a little bit on Purdy and his mindset, but he and Shanahan have to get on the same page, because I don't think they can survive if their offensive success is going to ride on Brock Purdy completing deep throws, particularly in the rain. That can't be the case again next year for me.
Well, San Francisco's offense has turned into a 3-2 outcome. It's either a home run play, which is rare. It's a strikeout, which is more common than not. And then maybe it's like a little dink and dunk here that gets you
a little walk. Maybe
a field goal when it's all said and done because you can't score in the red zone. So, it's in this game in particular comes down to 3 throws, in my opinion. The Deebo Samuel slant over the middle that Deebo Samuel drops. Purdy's interception late when you could have got a field goal to give you a lead, maybe, which maybe you win the game, maybe you don't, but it still changes the entire trajectory of the game at that point in time. Then Matthew Stafford's 51-yard throw to Puka Nacua. Whoa. But those are the 3 throws of the game where you're like, wow, it took literally 3 throws. 1 home run by a quarterback to a wide open receiver downfield, and a quarterback in Brock Purdy that couldn't lead guys open when they were there. Multiple times. George Kittle. I know Juwan Jennings had a few drops, but the Pearsall play was just like, dude, that's a throw we've seen other quarterbacks in this system make a lot of the times.
Well, we've seen Brock make it.
Right, but the quarterback that wasn't here tonight that played on the other sideline was making those throws, and he wasn't great at them either. But in games like this, they had more than 13 points, and they win you this football game. And I get it, there's personnel differences and whatnot, but my goodness, like Brock Purdy put on a performance that makes you say, what about Sam Darnold? He's having a great year. Like, I'm not saying pick him up, but it's like, hey, Darnold's playing great. And I don't even like Sam Darnold that much. I was like, yikes, when he got signed last year. But you got me thinking weird things because, like, what is happening? You're 6-8, and the offense can't move the football. And when you do move the football, the quarterback makes back-breaking, season-ending type plays that you're like, everyone knows that's the wrong decision to make, and you're still doing it. I guarantee you ask Brock, he'll say, hey, it's a bad choice. You ask Kyle, hey, it's a bad choice. Like, Juwan Jennings has 3 Rams all over him. He's not even open. If he was open and it was an underthrow, your arm ain't great, whatever. Not even open. Like, what do you see? Because, oh my goodness, he may need LASIK. Give him Jameis Winston's LASIK. He might need it. He's not even open.
Yeah, well, okay, let me play devil's advocate for a second. And first of all, there's no denying that the interception at the end of the game was not a good decision. Like, no one in their right mind can argue otherwise. Bad decision, terrible moment, and the worst possible moment to have that decision and that interception. But can we, for a second, also talk about Brock Purdy being down to his 2nd-string left tackle, his 3rd-string left guard, his 4th-string running back. He has a wide receiver in Deebo Samuel, who for some reason Kyle Shanahan seems insistent on getting him touches, even though every touch is a disaster, who also can't catch the ball over the middle on what might have been a touchdown that might have turned this game around. The best target, George Kittle, doesn't get targeted as often as we feel like he should. 7 targets today, 2nd most on the team behind Juwan. Deebo, though, also had 7 targets. Kittle turned those 7 targets into 4 catches. My point, as I play devil's advocate, not that I necessarily disagree with you guys, but this is also an offense that is down so many key guys, and Brock Purdy, the quarterback, obviously you love him to be able to elevate everyone around him, but it's not as if this is an extremely talented group of offensive players that he is surrounded by right now.
Okay, I'm going to push back on 2, 3. I'm going to push back on everything you just said.
Everything you said.
Aaron Banks started tonight at left guard, so he had his starting left guard. It is a backup left tackle. We've established that.
Who's played pretty well, mind you.
Yeah. I didn't think they were particularly bad. Kyle Shanahan's not. There's some designed throws to Deebo, but Kyle Shanahan's not the one throwing the ball to Deebo Samuel. That's on Brock. 7 targets, I think like 3 of those were designed. So that's on Brock. And like I said earlier, what the 49ers have talent-wise right now is pretty commensurate with like league average. Most teams would take George Kittle and Juwan Jennings and a 1st-round pick and Ricky Pearsall. And Isaac Granda's their 3rd-string running back, who they traded 2 picks to move up into the 4th round for, who had a great game last week. So I get that this is not the elite team that they had last year, but there's plenty. If they were just not open all game and it's like, man, you know what? Brock's got nowhere to go and he just got sacked a bunch of times and he's running around. Okay, that's one thing. But like the throws were there and the Deebo drop was just brutal. like you guys said, game-changing play. But on the other hand, that's one drop. Purdy was terrible the rest of the way. And does that drop change the game? Like, yeah, 100%. But that's where if you're gonna make this guy your franchise quarterback and he's gonna be the rising tide that lifts all boats, the tide never came. It never. You cannot have a margin for error that's so small that one drop is like, well, what do you want him to do? The guy dropped a touchdown. Like, okay, I want him to make another damn throw. That's not too much to ask. Is that crazy? I don't think that's crazy.
And that throw didn't come on the last play of the game. He had almost an entire half to play.
Thank you.
And win the game still. And look, I don't think I'm like jumping off the ship like I'm out on Brock Purdy. It's just what he's done this year. There's been really high highs against the Bears last week. Looked phenomenal against a middling defense that fired their head coach that was calling defensive plays, but still looked really good. Earlier in the season, there were plays he was making. You're like, wow, that's not Brock's fault. Ronnie Bell dropped the football. The defense was terrible. Special teams cost him. Special teams had all the points tonight because the offense couldn't get in the end zone, and the defense was the best they had been all year in the biggest game of the season. And again, yeah, Deebo Samuel drops a pass. Jawan Jennings has a few drops here or there. The running game wasn't working for about a half of or so. But when you're going to give someone that contract, when you're going to literally put your funds in one boat and say, hey, carry us, and have to either cut Javon Hargrave or Deebo Samuel, which really isn't a bad idea at this point, like, you're going to have to make massive changes to your roster to accommodate Brock Purdy. Well, in a game like this, you shouldn't have to ask others to accommodate for your quarterback. And that's what happened tonight. And they tried their darndest. Outside of Deebo Samuel, Kittle was fine. Grenda was fine. Pearsall was open. The offensive line wasn't great, but it was good enough. They had drives, and they were in position to score multiple times. And while Brock Purdy wasn't the only reason they lost tonight, you can almost say he was the biggest reason they lost tonight. And if that's your quarterback, that's who you're going to pay and sell to the franchise, that team, and the fan base. When everything's not perfect, that's still our guy. They're going to give you 5 years at $65 million a year. You talk about windows being open or closed or not. That window is certainly kind of going back and forth like, oh, it's open. No, it's closed. It's open. No, it's closed. I don't know what to make of Brock Purdy at this point. And I hate saying that. I love this kid. He's been awesome the last 2 years, but this year's not been Brock Purdy, and I'm not sure exactly who he is at this point in his career.
Yeah, and you talk about windows. One of the quickest ways to close your window, to slam your window shut and make it very difficult to ever open it again for at least a few years, it is to pay a quarterback who might not actually be very good an absurd amount of money. It has happened across the NFL so often of late. So that's why this decision coming up this offseason is so important for the Niners. Okay, let's sneak in a call before we take a quick break here on Overtime. We got so much more time with you. 888-957-9570. We're just getting started as we try to pick apart another disastrous loss for the 49ers. 12-6, the final score in favor of the Rams. The Niners now 6-8 in their playoff chances, like around 1%. Like, it is as unlikely as it possibly can be without officially being eliminated. Let's go out to the phone lines. Manny is hanging out in Union City. Manny, what's up? You're on Overtime. It's Mark, Randy, Kyle Madsen, Sterling Bennett with you. How you doing, Manny?
I am not doing good at all, having watched that game. To be honest with you, after that interception, I shut it down. I mean, I went back in to peek to see what was going on, but I knew the writing was on the wall, fellas. After that interception, it was a pretty much done deal. The one thing with Brock Purdy, I was telling the guy that screened the call, I'm glad he's a 49er. He represents that 49er spirit from back in the golden era, your days of the 1800s or whenever the gold rush took place. Because you know what, guys? He symbolizes it. And here's why. When everybody ran out west to try to get themselves that gold, they fell for fool's gold. And when Brock Purdy came out against the Dolphins in the last couple of years, it's starting to show me that it's just fool's gold. All right? We just got to look at it for what it is. I mean, we're making excuses all the time. And I don't blame them. I mean, we gotta grasp at something as to what happened this season. But it just falls to this. I mean, you guys said it. You know, can we fault the man for having the game that he played today because he was down to his third string, fourth string guys? Last I checked, these were the same guys that won big against the Bears like 3 days ago. What's the difference? And you're at home in the biggest game of your season, and this is all you got to show for it? I mean, Debo, he does more tweeting and more whining than he does producing on the field. With Tio and his antics.
Oh, yeah.
With Tio and his antics.
Yeah, go ahead, Manny.
Tio backed it up on the field. Right? Tio could say all he wanted to say. He backed it up on the field. Debo runs his mouth and nothing comes out of it. Honestly, I'm sick and tired of this guy, man. Blow this team up. Get rid of Debo. Do not waste a franchise tag on Purdy. I'm begging you, 49ers, man. You guys, you know what Brock Purdy is? NFL fans, does the name Matt Castle ring a bell? He had a Pro Bowl season and tanked. I'm very, very skeptical now about Brock Purdy. I mean, what more could we have asked for? A patchwork defense to hold Puka and
Manny, the defense was awesome in this game, and they absolutely deserved to win this football game. They played awesome, especially in the first half. Greenlaw was the Niners' best player in the first half. It didn't seem like he is coming off of an Achilles injury. We will get an update from Kyle Shanahan, I'm sure. He was working on his calf. Greenlaw was on the sideline and did not play for the majority of the second half. We will update everybody on that when we know. Manny, your Brock Purdy comment about not wasting a franchise tag on him, that doesn't even have to happen this offseason. The Niners do not have to do anything this offseason with Brock Purdy. They could force him to play on his deal, and then they could franchise tag him a year and a half from now. We do got to hit a quick break, but I know Sterling wants to tag something here. What do you got, Sterling?
One of two things. Kyle Shanahan said linebacker Greenlaw didn't play later in the game because of fatigue and soreness, while Devondre Campbell, who had started the entire year for Greenlaw, refused to come in the third quarter.
He refused to come in.
Refused to play with the game on the line.
Good. Get him off my team. Good. Goodbye.
Wow.
Good night.
Okay.
Night.
And on
Devondre Campbell. See ya.
On that note, we will take a quick
over,
break.
Campbell over. We're out of here.
When we come back, we got plenty more to get into, including Devondre Campbell quitting on the Niners in a game where you had to win at home on Thursday Night Football. Greenlaw looks like he avoided something more serious. That is good news there, but there's so much more to get into, plus your calls and your texts, 888-957-9570. The Niners fall at home on Thursday Night Football. Their season all but over. It's overtime with Mark Reedy, Kyle Matz, and Sterling Bennett. More next on 95.7 The Game.
Neuropathy can be a dark place with constant...
caught it, and now the crowd, of course, is responding to the fact, give me the ball, and look what happened.
Now back to overtime with Grandy, Madsen, and Bennett, with sounds from the locker room and your calls at 888-957-9570. Overtime continues now.
Welcome back. Mark Grandy, Kyle Madsen, Sterling Bennett with you. That highlight you just heard, courtesy of Al Michaels on Amazon Prime. If you were in the Bay Area, you might have watched it on your local Fox affiliate. It was not a good moment. That was the Deebo Samuel drop on 3rd and 10. That certainly was going to be a first down. It might have gone for a touchdown. At the very least, it would have put the 49ers in position to score up to that point. The game's first touchdown. A touchdown would have made it a 10-3 Niners lead, and who knows how the game would have turned. Ultimately, it resulted in a Niners field goal. That made it 6-3 Niners about halfway through the third quarter. Then the Rams immediately go on a 17-play, 65-yard drive that takes nearly 10 minutes off the clock. They get a field goal to tie it. They then go 60 yards in 3 minutes, a field goal to take the lead, and then off the Brock Purdy interception in the end zone, they go down the field 70 yards, and they kick an extra field goal to go up by 6 in the game's final moments. The Niners can't put together a Hail Mary drive, and the game is over. 12-6 is the final score, and now we got word, as Sterling Bennett told us just before the break, Devondre Campbell told the team he doesn't want to play anymore, and that's why once Dre Greenlaw was unable to go in the second half, that they had to throw out Demetrius Flanagan-Foles because their starting linebacker for the whole season refused to play.
My dog took a little PTO. Who doesn't? That's crazy. They said, get in the game. He said, no, thanks. I'm not playing today. That's
he
nuts.
Went to the locker room. He went inside. He said, the rain too much for me, brother. I'm going back inside where it's dry and warm. Like what is happening?
You put on your uniform. You went through the rigmarole of putting on pads and warming up.
If you're not going to play this poor Antonio Brown, take it off on the field and walk away.
Right, make a scene, make it funny.
Yeah.
Dude, it's not like, and it's not like they asked him to come in with 10 seconds left and said, hey, get on the field for this last snap. It's like the third quarter. You're going to have a whole half a game to play.
Game's tied.
Is quitting, I have a question for you guys. Is quitting on the 49ers the best thing Devondre Campbell did all season?
And it wasn't even quiet quitting. It was like, hey, I'm not playing tonight. Like, all right.
He loudly quit.
Yeah, he's like, all right, I'm going to announce I'm quitting to the entire coaching staff. But, like, here's the thing. Okay, I get it. You're upset. Dre Greenlaw took your spot. What did you think was going to happen when he came back? You were literally signed to be the placeholder for Dre Greenlaw.
Right. What'd you think?
So Greenlaw comes back. They say, hey, Campbell, you've been okay the last couple weeks. Thank you for your 13 games of service. Sit this one out. We'll call you when we need you. You never know. And lo and behold, Greenlaw's like, hey, my calf's acting up. I'm tired. Great. You have to expect Greenlaw's going to be on somewhat of a pitch count. Well, look what happens. Fred Warner's playing on a broken foot. You got a foot sprain from Grendo in the backfield. Bosa has the oblique and the hip injury. Campbell's like, hey, your second choice to replace Dre Greenlaw, I'm not going to play.
Said, hey, my feelings hurt.
This is a backup to a backup, a guy that ended his time in Green Bay dysfunctional and was like, I'm rubbed the wrong way with how they treated me. And you want to leave your tenure in San Francisco trying to alter your career and revamp your image in a way like this? He's getting cut tomorrow, right? Like, see ya. Good night.
Hey, Matt Barrows just tweeted this quote from Trevarius Ward in the locker room. Quote, he's probably going to get cut.
Oh, my God. That's awesome.
Oh, this is perfect. This is perfect.
Dude, get that scrubbing quitter off this team.
Well, so what probably happened here is because Ian Rappaport reported this morning when he first reported that Dre Greenlaw was coming back, it said he was going to be eased in. I'm wondering if it was portrayed like he might start, but then he'd play like a Sam linebacker role the rest of the game, and Devondre Campbell would come in and play. But then Greenlaw was awesome. Yep. Like you see why the 49ers missed him so bad, missed his athleticism in the second level. He was just so good.
Best player on the field in the first half.
Yeah, I think, yes, I would agree. And but White, you're not going to take him off the field just for the sake of a pitch count. And so he got a little tired and a little sore during the first half and didn't play the second half. I just get Devondre Campbell out of my face, bro. What a loser. What an absolute loser.
We're going to hear from Kyle Shanahan, and we'll hear exactly what he said about Devondre Campbell. But correct me if I'm wrong, Campbell essentially approached the Niners pregame and said, I'm not playing today if you're going to start Dre Greenlaw over me. And then when he was asked to come in for him in the second half, that's when he refused and left the field, is how I understand it. So he didn't even want to, he made it known pregame. And then when the Niners asked him to come in, he said, no, thanks. See ya.
What mindset is that, though? Like, you knew exactly what your role was when you signed here. And to have the audacity to refuse to play in the biggest game of the season when, if Dre Greenlaw's injury is serious, you're going to start against the Dolphins next week. You're the next guy up. Like, I'm not saying that Dre Greenlaw being injured is why they lost this game. The offense carries most of that blame tonight. But my goodness, like of all the players, that would be like Ambry Thomas refusing to play last year. Like, what are you doing? Like, you need this more than they need you, brother. Like, I'm sorry. Like, I would not be shocked if he doesn't play one more snap in the league ever again. I would not be shocked. He's over the hump. He's past his prime. He's in his early 30s. He's not a great pass coverage player. Like, this could be the last you ever hear of Devondre Campbell outside of tomorrow on this very radio station when every single host rips him for the next 12 hours. Like,
I can't wait to hear Shasky and Bonte.
Oh, I can't wait.
It's going to be great.
We're, it's almost 9 o'clock, so that means we're 9 hours away from the morning roast at 6 in the morning.
Buckle up, folks.
So
let's go.
Ready. We might take you close to 6 a.m. in the morning. We're going to be here for a long time.
You guys might go till close to 6 a.m.
I will scream on the mic until Bonte and Shasky walk in the studio.
We'll keep the seats warm for you guys.
It's time for the pregame show now. Let's go, boys.
Okay, well, let me ask you this question. Is this just a one-dude thing? Is this just Devondre Campbell not being a good dude, not being a team player, or is this systemic of something larger? Is this Kyle Shanahan beginning to lose the locker room? I know that that's a phrase that gets thrown around all the time, and there is very little to suggest that Kyle Shanahan is losing favor in the locker room. This is a pretty big deal, though. A player who has started all season refusing to play. This is just a one-guy thing, though, right?
It has to be. I think this is more indicative of Devondre Campbell as a person and as a player than Kyle Shanahan's hold on the locker room. If this was Dre Greenlaw or Fred Warner or Nick Bosa, then I think there would be a very real problem here. But Devondre Campbell wasn't in this team's plans for beyond Dre Greenlaw's absence.
Wasn't even their first choice linebacker to sign this offseason.
right. So toodles, bro.
Michael Kendricks. What could have been? He wouldn't have quit. Tell you that one.
Hey, I'll tell you, he stinks too. He's not even playing for the Cowboys anymore.
You're right.
All right. So a terrible loss for the Niners, and it gets even worse because one player that they turned to when Dre Greenlaw could not go in the second half refused to take the field.
He wasn't even good.
He was
like,
not
if he was
even
playing
good.
great and got benched, I get it. But, dude, your PFF grades are like 10. You're not good.
Dude, he's not an effective NFL player
It's
anymore.
also Dre Greenlaw. Like, there's no doubt that when Dre Greenlaw is healthy, he's playing over everybody not named Fred Warner on this team.
It's not Tatum Bethune they're throwing in there in front of you, bro. Come on, man.
This is just ridiculous. That's what the Niners season has come to. They're now 6-8. They lose at home to the Rams 12-6.
2024.
And
this season can't end fast enough.
And boy, it's over. I'll tell you
It's
what.
over now, brother.
It's over.
0.1% to go to the playoffs. This is it.
Over.
It's
All
Michael
right.
Jackson. This is it, man. Put the curtain call.
Yeah, this might have been the end of the Niners season. All right, let's go back out to the phone lines. We got so many of you guys lined up.
I hope it's Devondre.
888-957-9570. Yeah, Devondre, he's probably already gone from Levi's, so you're driving home. Maybe
He's not busy.
Driving to the
He's
airport.
screaming into the phone, keep my name out your mouth.
Give us a call, Devondre. We'll get you on
I'm not Chris Rock, brother. I dare you.
We'll let you jump everybody in line. Just call, and we'll get you on ASAP. But while we wait for Devondre, let's go out to Nicholas, who's in Anaheim. Nicholas, what's up? You're on Overtime on 95.7 The Game. It's Grandy, Kyle, and Sterling with you. How you doing?
Good. How about you guys?
We're trying to laugh at this situation, Nicholas.
I was going to talk about the offense, but Devondre Campbell saying that, geez, that's ridiculous. I mean, you got to be a team player. And Dre Greenlaw, that's a guy I'd go to war with. And the fact that you couldn't say, oh, well, he's on a pitch count, and you end up having, refuse to play. I'm sorry, but, yeah, I can't see him another year. I better see that guy cut. Like Devondre Campbell, he can go. But also, I was going to say, this was not on the defense. This game,
no
offense. Basically, there were several plays when I only caught the second half watching it live on my TV since I was commuting home. But watching Purdy miss some easy throws and Deebo complaining about wanting the ball and you couldn't do it. It was ridiculous. It was just basically almost a microcosm of the season, basically.
Yeah, Nicholas, you're right. I mean, and you saw just the second half as you were getting home from work. I mean, the first half, it wasn't that pretty either. I mean, the Niners defense in the first half, they were good in the second half, but they were amazing in the first half. But it was ugly offensively as well, Kyle. One of the first words out of your mouth when we took the air was, why the hell were you giving Deebo the ball on 3rd and 6 on that first drive?
Ludicrous, dude.
When you weren't then going to go for it on 4th and 4 or 4th and whatever, and then you kick a 53-yard field goal, which Jake Moody made, and credit to him, but made no sense. I texted you guys in the thread. The second after the field goal was kicked, I said, you know what? I am an idiot because I thought that a Deebo Samuel run on 3rd and 6 guaranteed that you were going to go for it on 4th and 4 or whatever it was, and they brought out the kicking unit. Moody made the kick, whatever. But I just cannot wrap my head around, a Deebo run on 3rd and 6 if you are not going to go for it on 4th down. It made no sense.
Especially if this was 2021 and they tried that, all right, good. That's a good effort. That play is not working this year. Deebo in the backfield on any kind of run, outside, inside, doesn't matter, isn't working. So to your point, Mark, that was what that signaled to me. Okay, they're going to try and get a couple of yards here and go for it on 4th. But no, they ran that play to try and gain the 6 yards. I don't understand it. I understand what Deebo means to the 49ers and has meant to the 49ers since 2019. He was awesome. Go back to the Super Bowl. He was awesome in the Super Bowl in 2019 as a rookie. And we've seen with the 49ers how hard it is for rookies to break out as quickly as Deebo did. And the impact that he had on their run in 2019 and 2021 and 2022 and 2023 cannot be understated. It's over. And placating Deebo Samuel because he did a tweet and was mad that he's not getting the ball, even though he's getting the ball about as often as he was last year, but that's a different point. So you're going to placate Deebo Samuel instead of trying to do every single thing you can to win this game? I don't understand that. I don't understand that one bit. I'm usually all in on the, hey, Kyle Shanahan's great. I think Kyle Shanahan had a bad game in the biggest moment of the year. And Brock Purdy wasn't good. We've talked about that. Deebo was bad again and has been. I think he's been fewer than 22 yards in each of the last 4 games, fewer than 22 yards receiving. And the rushing numbers are even worse. So that has gone so far past its use. And the fact they kept leaning on Deebo tonight, especially early in the game, for what? That's for him. You're doing that because you felt like you owed him. And I think that's embarrassing. He can't, if that's what it's going to be, then he can't be on this team anymore. That's just the bottom line.
Kyle Shanahan went out of his way to protect Deebo Samuel's ego tonight, and that's never been what Shanahan's been about since 2017. If you weren't a team player, get out. Devondre Campbell, not a team player, going to be cut tomorrow. I'm not saying cut Deebo, although we're pretty angry at him for how bad he played all year and how bad he was in this football game. I didn't mind the 3rd down run, but it's just the over-reliance on Deebo. Oh, we have to get Deebo going. No, you don't have to get Deebo going at all. In fact, the offense has been better when he doesn't touch the football. He has been a waste of a touch all year. And I get it. Former All-Pro. He used to be able to carry the team. He used to make big plays. I'm sorry. The word used to carries a lot of weight in that statement. He's over the hump. He's past his prime. And he's been a great player for a long time in San Francisco. done a lot of great things, a lot of highlight plays, carried the offense an entire season when they didn't have a running game, when the quarterback was limited. Like, thank you, Deebo Samuel, for your service. We appreciate you. You are one of the greatest receivers in Niners history. That said, if you're going to make a win about yourself, oh, it ain't my fault, I'm not getting touches. When you lead this team in touches now after this football game, and you walked into it with 72 on the year, the second most behind Jordan Mason, only to put up one of your worst performances of the season and drop the biggest pass of the football game outside of the Jawan Jennings throw in the red zone that Purdy threw interception on. Like, this game would have been entirely different had Deebo Samuel come to play. And guess what? If you're going to whine and complain on social media and make a win about yourself, he deserves every boo, every jeer. And honestly, I would, like, if it was me and I was a petty Kyle Shanahan, I'd walk up to him and say, here's your pacifier if you want to be a baby. Stop crying, start playing for once. We need you tonight, and you didn't show up. At this point in time, season's over with. You're an all-pro. Play like one.
Yeah, Deebo Samuel, 7 targets, 3 catches for 16 yards. He was targeted on the first play of the game. It was decent defense by Ahkello Witherspoon, by the way. So odd to see Ahkello Witherspoon playing actually decent defense. Of course, it happens to be against the 49ers. He also had the drop that you guys are talking about on the 3rd and 10 in the second half. He had 2 carries for 3 yards. So if we're talking about opportunities, 9 total opportunities, 5 total touches, and they go for 19 total yards. He also ran into Isaac Guerrero in the backfield, and he also committed a false start. It was the worst day of Deebo Samuel's career at the office, and when it comes on the backdrop of what he did on Twitter after the win last week leading up to this week, it leaves a terrible taste in your mouth. And it's just so odd, guys, to go from how beloved Deebo was, and we will always have a soft spot for Deebo and what he did in 2021 and how he helped this Niner team get to 2 Super Bowls. Deebo Samuel will forever be one of the more unique weapons in Niner history. He was getting booed off the field tonight at Levi's Stadium. That is incredible to consider how quickly the fan base has turned on Deebo Samuel. He was getting booed off the field.
But Mark, he asked for it.
He did. I'm not saying he didn't deserve it, but it's crazy how quickly it changed.
If first of all, I want to go back to the very first thing you said. What was the first play of the game?
A throw to Deebo Samuel, a slant to Deebo Samuel.
And who was in coverage?
Ahkello Witherspoon.
Yeah, Deebo Samuel was getting dogged by Ahkello Witherspoon. That's what we're doing now? That's where we're at? Like, come on, man. You saw Jawan Jennings later in the game. Ahkello held him and still got beat by 4 yards for a first down. Like, that's not a good player. And Samuel's getting punked by him? No, that's not how that used to go. Deebo on a slant used to be money. No matter what. No matter who was covering, the Niners could get that, and that was 8 yards plus cash every time. And now he's getting defended by Ahkello freaking Witherspoon, who doesn't even start for the worst defense in football? What? Like, this is where it's at, man. And to what you were saying, Mark, I don't think if Deebo had not done that tweet, or if Deebo had done a tweet and been like, hey, Yellow Right, struggling this year, I'm going to bounce back, I got you. Or whatever. He has a rough game. We're going, yeah, hey, you know what, that Deebo drop was tough, but Brock Purdy's probably the focus tonight. But Deebo Samuel, by insisting he's not struggling when everybody can see that he is, it's not even the numbers. You can watch him play. It's not the same guy. Yeah. When was the last time you saw Deebo Samuel break a tackle?
Yeah.
It's been forever.
It has. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, so he comes out and goes, I'm just not getting the ball. Like, man, what? Okay, fine, here's the ball. And look, you're doing the same things you've been doing. Like, I don't understand it, man. I get he probably sees the most vile things said to him that go beyond the realm of football, and he felt the need to respond. But, man, that was not a good look. It didn't do anything to help him. And I just can't imagine a scenario where he's back with the 49ers and an effective player ever again. Yeah,
we'll see. We got more to say on Deebo Samuel. Also, I see some callers, Fozzie, Roshan, who I know want to talk about Deebo. We'll get to you, but we do have this fresh sound from Kyle Shanahan. We talked about the Devondre Campbell situation. Let's take a listen to exactly what Kyle Shanahan said just moments ago down in Santa Clara as it relates to Niners linebacker Devondre Campbell. Here is Kyle Shanahan.
What happened with Devondre Campbell? He didn't play and he went into the locker room at some point?
Yeah, he said he didn't want to play today.
Play today?
Yep.
The coaching staff?
He did when I asked him why he didn't want to go in. So.
During the game or before?
No, that was in the third quarter.
Has that ever happened to you where players said they didn't want to play in a game?
No.
He got demoted for this game, right? I mean, he was not going to play.
No, he was gonna go in when Dre came out.
Has that ever happened to you where players said they didn't want to play in a game?
No.
He got demoted for this game, right? I mean, he was not going to play.
No, he was gonna go in when Dre came out.
Will you release Devondre Campbell?
We'll figure out something, but I don't know that right now.
Did he give you any reason why he didn't want to play today?
No.
Campbell, I mean, to hear players say, I don't want to play today, does that create dissension, especially knowing that at this point in the season, with the type of season that this has started out to be, you kind of need as much camaraderie as possible to be successful? Does that create dissension amongst the team, or did it not really affect anyone? Did no one really notice?
People notice, but when someone says that you move on. You don't deal with that anymore.
So that's Kyle Shanahan post-game, essentially saying that Devondre Campbell told the team openly that he did not want to play today. Kyle Shanahan asked, has that ever happened to you before? And he flatly said no. And he's talking about if other teammates noticed, picked up on it. I can tell you someone who did pick up on it. Mooney Ward, who was asked post-game in the locker room about it. We already heard Mooney Ward say that he's probably going to get cut soon. What we did not hear from Mooney Ward was before that, he said, quote, that's some sucker stuff to me. Probably going to get cut soon.
And that's why, to me, this doesn't fall in the realm of Kyle Shanahan's losing the locker room. I think Kyle Shanahan and the entire locker room are very much in the camp of that dude sucks. What that guy did is a bad thing. And the worst part about this is we're spending time talking about Devondre Campbell, who was never in this team's long-term plans.
Yep.
He was Dre Greenlaw's replacement until Dre Greenlaw came back. We were hopeful it would be about this time and the 49ers would be making a playoff push. They're not. But it's taking the focus off what the real problem was tonight. Their defense was awesome. Devondre Campbell or not. That's 2 games in a row. Their defense has been outstanding. Salute to Nick Sorensen. He was under fire and they've come back and they've played really good football here the last couple of games. The offense has been and continues to be the problem this season, and I don't want Devondre Campbell to overshadow that.
Yeah, no, very well said. We will have plenty more to say on that, Sterling. I know you're chomping at the bit to get some stuff out there on Devondre Campbell and Mooney Ward and everyone reacting to this, and we got so much more time to get to all of you on the phone lines as well. Fozzie, I see you, Roshan, Don, and Caleb. We're coming to you when we come back. Deebo Samuel, a bad day. Brock Purdy, a bad day. Devondre Campbell quits on this team. The Niners lose, and their postseason hopes are essentially all but done as they lose at home to the Rams 12-6. As overtime continues, Mark Randy, Kyle Madsen, Sterling Bennett, more coming up next on 95.7 The Game.
Now back to overtime with Grandy, Madsen, and Bennett with sounds from the locker room and your calls at 888-957-9570. Overtime continues now.
Welcome back. Niners fall to the Rams 12-6. The Niners now 6-8, and it feels like their season is essentially over at this point. This was an ugly football game. No touchdowns for either team. The 49ers waste a great defensive performance. They waste an incredible first half from Dre Greenlaw, who returned from his Achilles tear that happened 10 months ago now in February in the Super Bowl. And the 49ers fall in their season now on the brink. They're 6-8. And it's gotten worse post-game because we have learned that Devondre Campbell has essentially quit on this football team. Kyle Shanahan speaking post-game saying that Devondre Campbell, essentially said he did not want to play in this football game once he was asked to fill in for Dre Greenlaw, who needed to sit out the majority of the second half because of some calf soreness and fatigue as he returns from that injury. Sterling, this was a disastrous night for the 49ers in a season that has already been disastrous enough.
It kind of sums it up, though, right? Like, 2024 has been a mess, and to end it like this, essentially on a mess of a player you signed to fill a void for the better half of a season is like, nah, I'm not going to play anymore for you, and you lose the game, which, funny enough, we haven't talked about in the last 25 minutes, it feels like. But, I mean, this has been 2024 for San Francisco. It's just a mess. The team can't focus. The offense can't find a way to get into the end zone. Deebo Samuel is a shell of himself. Brock Purdy, who tonight said he failed the team, he did. Like, this team just really hasn't been great all year. And for Devondre Campbell, a player who also hasn't been great all year, to quit on the team, like, yeah, that is the 2024 San Francisco 49ers. And oddly enough, if Seattle loses on Sunday, there's still a chance. But just a crazy night. Like, to hear that a backup decides to quit is crazy. Like, this is not Vontae Davis retiring. He's refusing to play, and I'm sure he hopes to play again somewhere else next year. It's also a player in Devondre Campbell who told the entire world after he was let go by Green Bay last offseason that, like, someone's going to get a great football player. Well, I'm looking for him, and he didn't play this year for San Francisco, and they were looking for the player that was playing for San Francisco this year in that third quarter. He wasn't there either. So it's like, all righty, let's see where this thing leads.
Yeah. And George Kittle has spoken post-game. He says, quote, on the Devondre Campbell situation, if you're just joining us, Devondre Campbell refused to enter the game in the second half when Kyle Shanahan asked him to. George Kittle says, quote, it's very dumb, very stupid, very immature. I don't see how you can do that to your teammates. So you have, I mean, of course, it's going to go this way. Every single other teammate on the 49ers is absolutely saying that everything that's going on with Devondre Campbell is absolutely terrible. And that's what the Niners, I mean, George Kittle last week called out the entire team for the lack of energy throughout the entire season, the team not playing with the right desire that they needed to, the right desperation. And then this is what happens. This is, as you're pointing out, Sterling, very, very indicative of what kind of has been the whole season for the 49ers.
Well, Kittle also added that I've never been around anybody that's done that. I hope I'm never around anyone that does that again.
Wow. You know what this sounds like? This sounds like
He's
a teammate.
He's not welcome back in San Francisco.
This sounds
if
like a
he
teammate.
Walks back in there, get out.
This sounds like a teammate. Sorry to jump on you there, Sterling. This sounds like a teammate, Kyle, that has been not well liked in the locker room for a lot of this season, even before tonight.
Yeah, man. Maybe this is some galvanizing moment. I know the playoff hopes are 0.1%. I saw somebody did the list
now.
of somebody.
Oh God!
Somebody did a list of the way they make it, and it's insane. Like it's ludicrous. That's why their chances are 0.1% to make the postseason. But we said this after the loss to Buffalo. It's like everything that happens the rest of this year, if they make the playoffs, okay, whatever. But everything that happens the rest of this year is about what does it mean for 2025 for me? Like that's kind of how this looks. And the fact that you've got Charvarius Ward who is like, yeah, that guy's gonna get cut. That's sucker stuff. And you've got George Kittle being like, I hope I'm never around a player like that again. That's not something you do to your teammates. Like that shows, at least to me, this locker room is in the right space mentally.
Yeah.
And that's a really big deal for a team that's 6-8 that had Super Bowl hopes when the season began. So, like, trying to zoom out and catch the 30,000 foot view of this, the fact that the 49ers are responding in this way makes me feel really good about where they're at for going into next year. And ideally, the 49ers, when they're making their acquisitions this offseason, whether it's in free agency or through the draft, are really hammering down to make sure that whatever players they bring in are here to row the same direction and are here for the betterment of the team and the program, and not here because it was an opportunity to start, and when they don't get to start anymore, they're going to take their ball and go home. That's whack. That sucks. So I love that George Kittle has this response. I love that Charvarius Ward had this response. I'm sure we're going to get more such responses trickling out as the days go by here. Good riddance, Devondre Campbell. He was one of the reasons that the defense was so bad this year.
Yeah.
Congrats.
No doubt.
Good legacy.
888-957-9570. Let's go back out to the phone lines. Fozzie's been hanging out. Fozzie from the East Bay. What's up, Fozzie? You're on Overtime with Mark Randy, Kyle Madsen, Sterling Bennett. What do you got?
Yeah, what's up, boys? Real quick, man, just to touch on that Devondre Campbell's thing, man. Yeah, it sounds like none of the guys really liked him before. And for me, as a fan, he would look like the worst starter on the team. So, yeah, good riddance. And that last drive to stop the Rams on that third down where essentially Stafford hits their tight end to ice the game.
Mm-hmm.
I was mad at the time, but now that makes a lot more sense because they looked completely unprepared and that tight end was uncovered. And now we know that, we had a backup linebacker there, and it looked like Hufanga was playing linebacker there for a second, but we'll probably find out more about that tomorrow or whatever. But the reason for my call was because of Deebo. I love Deebo. A lot of great memories for him, and it just sucks to see him on the decline. And now he's got to eat this huge, big old piece of humble pie, and possibly eating that on the way out the door. And for the fans to be booing him like that, man, I don't want us doing that to a great player, man. So, man, as much as he was a great player for us, man, Deebo, you got to eat what you said on Twitter yesterday. Them Twitter fingers that got you in trouble with the fans, and now you come out here and lay an egg. You got to reap what you sow, and you're probably out the door next year. Cheers, boys.
Yeah, appreciate the call, Fozzie. Yeah, it's hard for me to swallow the way that the Deebo experience has gone this year. I know, Kyle, you feel like the boos are deserved, and I know every Niner fan there who booed felt that way, and I don't disagree with you necessarily, but there's just so much emotion, that I feel with Deebo Samuel, and for the vast majority of those emotions, they're positive. Like, Deebo Samuel has been amazing for this football team, and it's hard for me to forget about all of that. But when he goes out on Twitter and he makes a much-needed win about him, and he goes out saying he hasn't been getting touches when he has indeed been getting touches, it's just simply not him doing as much with those touches as he has in the past. And then you follow that up with, for some reason, Kyle Shanahan feeling like he has to force-feed Deebo Samuel. It still doesn't work. He then drops one of the most important plays of the game that turns the game around, and you lose, and your season is over as a result. I don't blame any fans for feeling the need to boo Deebo Samuel in that moment, but I also don't blame a fan like Fozzie who feels like Deebo Samuel doesn't deserve those boos because of everything he's done up to that point as a member of the 49ers.
I'll grapple with my feelings about Deebo Samuel's career I'll cross that bridge when we get to it. I'm pissed. Like, I don't get mad when a player doesn't perform well. That happens. Especially when you're Deebo Samuel and you had so many carries and receptions and you play as hard as he does. Might be dealing with an injury thing. Like, it's okay. Not playing well is the thing. But when you go out on Twitter and you make it about you and you make it about your opportunities, and he says he wasn't throwing his teammates under the bus, it's like, well, that's about Kyle Shanahan or Brock Purdy. You're throwing somebody under the bus because you're absolving yourself of blame here. And I think that stinks. And to go out and I went, all right, well, maybe he comes out and he balls out tonight and proves everybody wrong. Would love to see that. Nope, proved everybody absolutely correct. So I'm with you, Mark. This doesn't, for me, like, tarnish his legacy or whatever with the 49ers, but I'll figure out how I feel about Deebo Samuel long-term down the road. Right now, it feels like he needs to not be wearing a Niner uniform anymore. That's where I sit right now.
Or at least take the C off his chest, because that's a problem to me. If you're going to be the one that walks up to Jake Moody and Tabor Pepper and puts hands on your teammate and wants to keep them accountable and wants to say, hey, you're screwing up, pick it up, tighten it up, lock in Jake Moody. And yeah, Jake Moody needed to lock in. He was not great against Tampa Bay. But for you to do that with the C on your chest, and then later, in the biggest win of the year against Chicago last week, you didn't play great. To make it about yourself, to blame the head coach, to blame the quarterback, to say, hey, you're not giving me the ball enough, when in fact you are the least effective player on the offense, and you get the ball more than everybody else still does, not named Jordan Mason. To make that about yourself, and then to walk out there tonight knowing that you are banking on yourself to perform like you did in 2021, to play like the all-pro you used to be, and you lay an egg, you lay a stinker. In fact, you can argue it was worse than an egg, because the plays you didn't make cost San Francisco even more than the plays you did make. And so you leave the game, and the fans are booing you, rightfully so. You made it about yourself. You brought it on yourself. And when you asked yourself and banked on yourself to perform, you were a no-show. What does that mean? That is exactly who Deebo Samuel is at this point in time. He's a front runner. It's all talk. There's no big hits. There's no lowering your shoulder and running through cornerbacks and safeties. It is a one hit and he's down. 2 yards and he's down. It's blame somebody else for my problems. Look in the mirror, man. Like, I get it. The offensive line hasn't been great this year at certain times on screen passes. Guys don't get out fast enough. You get hit early. I get that. But when you look at what you've done this year with the touches you've been given, and in fact, the touches you really have not earned this year, it is insane to think that you had any right to go on social media and ask for more of them. And it's even worse to say that, oh, well, I didn't play great tonight, and then put on a performance like this. You dropped the biggest play of the game. He should apologize to us and his team. Like what? I get it. We all love Deebo. There is a fan like Fozzie in every single one of us that loves Deebo Samuel. But right now in 2024, I don't want to be that fan. I'm angry. Like Kyle, I'm upset because he's supposed to be better than this. Someone has to keep Deebo accountable for his terrible play. And no one has thus far, and he's blaming other people. I don't want a player like that on my team. I'm sorry. I just don't.
Yeah, I mean, if you got the Deebo Samuel from 2021 or hell, even a couple of years ago or 2019 when he was a rookie, like
last year,
all those Debos are miles better than the Deebo we've seen so far this year, and that very easily could have been the difference in the Niners winning or losing this football game.
Since yelling at Jake Moody, by the way, and punching Tabor Pepper in the throat, Deebo Samuel, 26 targets, 14 catches, 101 yards, 8 carries for 15 yards in 5 games.
It's not great.
Yuck.
Not great. In fact, that is actually very, very, very bad over the course of five football games.
Yep.
Yes, very much so. 888-957-9570 is the number to call. It's also the Comcast Business text line. Up next is Roshan, who's in Vegas. Roshan, what's up? You're on Overtime. It's Grandy, Kyle Sterling with you. How you doing, Roshan?
Doing good, guys. How you doing? I don't even know where to start. Basically, I'm just going to kind of sum it up with like the previous callers. You know, Deebo, he's basically tried to reinvent himself this season. Changing the number, coming in, losing weight in camp and everything, but he hasn't come back with that same fire. He hasn't shown that he needs to be the main focus of this offense. Because after we lost CMC, they keep trying to run back to Deebo, go back to the well, and he's not producing. They refuse to give Kittle the same type of attention that teams like Kansas City gives Kelsey. Kelsey may not have the numbers as Kittle right now, but he's a winner. He's helping his team produce wins. And back to Purdy, he, everybody said he was a system quarterback last year. That kind of didn't prove that, but it's starting to look like that. He's a system quarterback, and our system is failing. Shanahan is not who he used to be. He can't get into his bag, as people like to say. He's running out of scheme. He's running out of trick plays, and wins like last week, everybody got happy, and I was happy too. But I knew it was against the Bears. We look good against a bunch of practice dummies, but against a team that's fighting for their playoff hopes and a chance to go to the Super Bowl, our true colors show. But I think it's time to just roll it up, let everybody, kind of get healed up. Greenlaw, Bosa, and Purdy, because Purdy doesn't look right. His arm is definitely suspect. That last pass where he got picked off, there was no oomph under it, and he shouldn't have gone that deep. There's plenty of passes that could have been made, but he went that route, and that cost us the game. And then at the end they're trying to play scramble drill, and there was no time left. Yeah. There's no time left.
Yeah, Roshan, I mean, at that point, the game's over, and you lost it on that interception. And Roshan is right about that interception by Brock Purdy. Oddly enough, that that might be something. Obviously, that was more detrimental to losing or winning this game in that moment. Honestly, that throw in that moment might be less of a concern for me of Brock Purdy's, but it was some of the other ones, because Purdy generally is like a good decision maker. That's just a moment where there was a terrible decision that he made. But when we talk about the restrictions of Brock Purdy as a quarterback, I mean, it's the deep ball that he hasn't been able to hit this year. It was the Ricky Pearsall throw just before that interception to Juwan Jennings. Ricky Pearsall runs right past the DB, has a walk-in touchdown if Brock Purdy leads him. It's underthrown, nearly picked off as a result. Earlier, Kyle, you pointed this one out. It was a throw over the middle to Deebo Samuel. I believe it was on the 2nd and 20 after the George Kittle penalty, which set the Niners back, and it kind of ruined that drive. Deebo had a step. And if you lofted over the top of the defender, you put enough air under it, Deebo Samuel makes that catch. Who knows, maybe he breaks it, and it's a 70-yard touchdown or whatever it would have been. And both of those throws were pretty severely underthrown, and those are things when you are leading an offense that is down again to, your fourth-string running back, and you don't have your star left tackle, and in the future you're going to be making X amount of money, and it's going to hamper what you can put around him. Those are the throws that your quarterback has to make, and Brock Purdy too often this year is just not making those throws.
Yeah, especially in money time, man. Like the throws have to be better. The decision-making, Sterling, you pointed this out earlier, and I was watching it again at one of the breaks. The interception to Jennings, there's not a quarterback in the league that's fitting that throw in. There's a defensive back behind him. There's another one in front of him. There's another safety coming over from across the field. Like, there was no window there. So it's the decision making. The decision making from Purdy all year has been really suspect. He's indecisive. He's bouncing around in the pocket. He was like jumping in the pocket today.
That was weird.
Just super odd. I don't know if it's the caller mentioned the scheme stuff with Shanahan, how it's just old and it's played out. And I do think that they need to make some pretty wholesale offensive changes. But a lot of what their offense is predicated on is like being able to move defenders with Christian McCaffrey and being able to move defenders and manipulate defenders with Deebo Samuel. And when McCaffrey's not on the field and Deebo Samuel's not the threat that he used to be, defenses aren't going to react the same way. And that's what the 49ers offense is built around, is defenses reacting a certain way to certain things, and the 49ers just don't have the dudes to operate in the offense that they've built. And Mark, you asked Greg Cosell this, I believe, on Willard and Dibbs when you were filling in, and he basically said, like, you can't make wholesale offensive changes midseason. You can't make fundamental changes to what the foundation of your offense is while you're also trying to prepare to play an opponent. So that's what I'm looking for this offseason. Whatever has caused Brock Purdy to suddenly be this indecisive quarterback who refuses to take a check down, whatever it is that's wrong with the Deebo Samuel stuff, scrap it all. Like, ground zero. There's new personnel. The Niners offense needs to look different this year, needs to look different next year, because whatever the heck this was, tonight wasn't a one-off. Tonight was the accumulation of a season of yuck for me.
Which is so weird, because they played almost a perfect game against the Bears, who are a better defense than the Rams. I get there's NFC West, division games are always tougher than the other ones, and the Bears' offense isn't great, and they're in turmoil, and they change their head coach and whatnot. I totally get that. But Shanahan called a perfect game against the Bears.
He did.
And Brock was almost perfect against Chicago's defense. And there were still a few throws he missed. That one to Pearsall, a deep downfield, similar to tonight. I get it. There was probably a little more miscommunication on that play, but this one wasn't tonight. This one was a pure, I just missed him. And I don't know if it's the shoulder for Brock. He just looks uncomfortable, and he has all year long. And we tried to justify it early in the year. Well, there's no Christian McCaffrey. Well, Debo's not playing well. Well, Brandon Ayuk didn't have the offseason. Okay, those things still exist. Those are factors in maybe his down play this year. That's fine. But it can't be the reason for it, right? It can't be the reason why you're not making throws. Like, he missed a wide open Deebo Samuel tonight that flew in the middle of the field where nobody else was. Like, when you're lofting throws, like the ball tonight was just lofted in the air, rainbows, which Brock doesn't have the best arm. But then when you know you don't have the best arm, when you know it's wet, You don't play great in the rain, and you want to take deep shots downfield. You're 0 for 7, like Mark said, on throws 20-plus yards downfield. Then stop trying them. Like, I get it, you can't just outright stop, but, like, overall, like, don't be afraid to take your checkdowns. If they're going to give you a free 7 yards, take it. That's what made Jimmy Garoppolo so effective in San Francisco. It's what made Brock so effective last year. Check down, check down, check down. Then it opened things up. Boom, big play. And so, yes, changes have to be made, but for Brock, I get it. There's a weight on his shoulders we don't understand, right? He has no idea. Like, we have no idea what's happening in that building. I mean, players are quitting, so who knows what's happening inside Niners HQ? But it just feels like he is not settled in at all this year, and you hope he can bounce back. But now you're having conversations like we've had tonight about who is Brock Purdy, and I'm not sure San Francisco does, which really bothers me too.
Yeah, for sure. 888-957-9570. Let's sneak in one more call before we take a quick break. Dom has been waiting in San Francisco. Dom, what's up? You're on Overtime on 95.7 The Game. How you doing?
Oh, pretty good. I'm just curious about the 49ers. The offense, they could have played more better than this, you know what I mean? They could have played more better. The defense was good, I give credit to, but the offense just got to improve more next year. You know, the offense got to improve.
Couldn't agree more.
Yeah, Dom, absolutely. I mean, today was, it's the worst offensive performance we've seen in the Kyle Shanahan era. One of the worst offensive games we've seen in the Kyle Shanahan era, period. Maybe
it was the worst.
If you look at it, at least from like 2019 on, when the team was actually a good football team, no doubt. I mean, they were absolutely terrible tonight all game long.
It was, I don't know. You can look at a million different metrics and determine a thing is good or bad, but just eye test.
And considering what was on the line and
stakes.
Yep.
Available players, because I know I'm sure there were worse offensive games in 2017 and 2018. Those were some not awesome teams, but this was heinous. You scored 6 points with the season on the line
against a Rams defense that is not very good.
Against a Rams defense that had 42 points hung on it last week. You scored
on
6
a short week.
0 touchdowns.
86 rushing yards allowed the last 3 weeks on average.
Not one, and you didn't score 1 touchdown.
You had, what was the rushing totals?
Didn't even get close. Didn't even get into the red zone.
63 rushing yards, 3.3 a pop on the ground for the Niners today.
And
not good.
That was with a 15-yard carry in there.
Yeah.
Like they didn't even. That's one way to solve the red zone scoring. Just don't go to the red zone. Yeah, sure.
Can't get any worse, I guess.
This is so damaging, dude. This was really, really bad. To in this spot lay that big of an egg. The Kyle Shanahan stuff is not going to get any quieter after that.
Absolutely, no doubt. Sterling, we got to take, or you have a quick update for us?
Very small thing.
Yeah.
Billy Garoppolo, Jimmy Garoppolo's brother, put on Instagram offensive guru 2 laughing emojis regarding Kyle Shanahan. So the hits keep coming. Former quarterbacks' brothers are hating on Kyle Shanahan tonight.
Yeah, Jimmy Garoppolo got a win at Levi's tonight. That's
in his return.
In case you forgot, okay. Jimmy Garoppolo is the backup quarterback for the Rams. So
yeah, he's the backup quarterback for the Rams because he stinks. And Kyle Shanahan made him a lot of money. Get Jimmy Garoppolo and his brother the hell out of here.
Yeah, well said. All right, time for a break. When we come back, more of your calls. Caleb, I know you've been patient. Travis, I see you as well. Dylan and Richard, we're coming to you. There's a lot of you on hold. We're with you all night long. If you stay patient, we will get to you. We're coming to you next. 888-957-9570. It's Overtime on 95.7 The Game. Grandy, Kyle, Sterling, more next on 95.7 The Game.
Valvoline Instant Oil changes your 15-minute drive through.
Now back to Overtime with Grandy, Madsen, and Bennett, with sounds from the locker room and your calls at 888-957-9570. Overtime continues now.
Yeah, that's Jake Moody field goal from 47 yards out. That was the play that immediately followed the Deebo Samuel drop on 3rd and 10, which at the very least would have put the 49ers in the red zone. It might have gone all the way for a touchdown, and who knows, that might have impacted the end and the final score of this football game. But the pain does not end there for the Niners, because as we learned post-game, Kyle Shanahan telling the media that Devondre Campbell essentially quit on this football team tonight. Devondre Campbell, who has been the team's starting linebacker alongside Fred Warner essentially all season until tonight, did not want to play in the second half of this game once Dre Greenlaw went down, and Niners teammates have in unison all voiced their displeasure, to put it kindly, with what Devondre Campbell did. We told you what George Kittle said. He has never been around someone like that and never wants to be around someone like that again. Mooney Ward called it sucker stuff, and Diamador Lenore has taken to Twitter, and he has tweeted this: "I call you brothers, deeper than the surface. Blood makes us related. Loyalty makes us family. I'll never quit on my brother no matter what happens. I'm cut from a different cloth. It can be 50 versus 1. I'm standing on all 10. Not difficult to find out that's about Devondre Campbell." So Diamador Lenore, George Kittle, Mooney Ward. I'm sure we will hear from Fred Warner and a number of other 49ers. Brock Purdy addressed it post-game. We'll hear from Brock in a little bit about it. Every single Niners player, and more importantly, every single Niners leader, and Diamador Lenore, by the way, quickly becoming one of the leaders on this team, absolutely railing against what Devondre Campbell did today, and for good reason. He quit on this football team when they desperately needed him in the second half.
Kind of feels like the Niners are going to go win by like 30 next week.
In
like
Miami?
The way no, for sure. But the way everybody's responding to this Devondre Campbell thing is fascinating to me, because this is not a locker room that is all of a sudden like, man, season's about over. Let's try and just get healthy and rest up and get ready for next year. Like, what are you going to do? Like, this is a locker room that's angry because this dude quit. Like I know it doesn't really matter, but to me, the fact they're all galvanizing around this thing makes me think that the 49ers aren't going to lose out here. I think this is having a very real impact on mindsets in the 49ers locker room. At least that's how it seems.
Well, it shows they're connected in some form or fashion, that despite how bad the year's been, despite how bad Brock played tonight and Deebo played tonight, and how bad the injuries have been, 43 games missed by Pro Bowlers this year, the most by any team in football. Despite all those things that have happened, despite being 6-8 and losing 12-6 tonight, they quickly have come together and said, nope, we're not going to stand for that. We are connected and unified for what seems like the first time all year. Like, the message has simply been, we don't play with that. You want to quit? Fine, quit. We're here. I'm going to play. Even if we are 1-16, I'm going to still duke things out the brothers next to me, and we're going to go out there and fight till the end. And, Devondre Campbell, man, like, Ricky Pearsall got shot. Mooney Ward lost a child. And they both came back. And you have the audacity to tell the teammates that you played with for 13 games, the team that gave you a contract when nobody else wanted to, I quit? Like, how do you think the rest of the league feels about that now? Like, he's not, like, I would not be shocked if he never plays another snap. I'd
be shocked if he did.
Here. Oh, right. Sorry, yes. He'll never play again, is how I'll put that. Like, there's no grace period. There is no, let him justify it. No. Like, done. Goodbye. At 6 a.m. tomorrow morning, he better be cut.
Yep.
Like, there is no hearing him out. People lost children this year and came back for this team. And you can't because you didn't get your way. It's pitiful. It's childish.
Yeah, absolutely. Very well said. Agree 100% with everything that you laid out there. We will hear from Kyle Shanahan and others on it. But essentially, again, Devondre Campbell refused to enter this game in the second half when the Niners needed him to because Dre Greenlaw went down with an injury, and there were a couple of other Niner linebackers who filled in, and they also were not playing at 100%. And in an ideal world, Devondre Campbell would have been in there multiple times throughout the second half. Okay, as promised, back out to the phone lines as overtime continues. The Niners fall to the Rams 12-6. Niners season is all but over. Postseason chances are much closer to 0 than they are to 1%. This feels cooked for the 49ers, and we're reacting with you all night long here on Overtime. Up next is Caleb in Livermore. Caleb, what's up? You're on Overtime. It's Grandy, Kyle, and Sterling with you. How you doing, Caleb?
I'm doing good, guys. How you doing?
We're hanging in there after another rough Niners day. How are you doing?
I'm doing good, man. That Devondre Campbell stuff is hilarious, man.
Wild.
Crazy. Wow. But just two things, man. So if you guys had to sum up the Niners season in one word, what would it be? And the second one, when you look at this Niners roster, a lot of the high-priced guys, who would you keep and who would you move on moving forward? That's what I got for you guys. Have a good night, man.
Good question, Caleb. First of all, Niners season in one word. This is an easy one. I'll just go disappointing because the expectations were so high, and now you're looking at being the worst team in your own division. Disappointing for so many reasons because you had so many games earlier in the year that you had big leads in the second half, and you couldn't hold them. Disappointing is the word I'll use, although that feels kind of soft. It's been a lot. It's been a lot worse than just disappointing this year.
Yeah, I think that hits the right note, though, because there's like abominable, heinous, abysmal works. Dreary, I think, kind of works, but disappointing hits the right note because it's. I'm not mad. I'm disappointed. Because there was all the injury stuff, but which makes it really hard to be like, oh, I'm so angry because if they're healthy all year, this team looks a lot different. I think you saw that tonight. You saw glimpses of it tonight.
Yeah.
Just their defense with Hufanga and Greenlaw in there is like, oh my gosh, these guys are not playing at 100%, and look at how much of a difference they're making. But you go to the penalties, the special teams mistakes, the turnovers, the regression from Brock Purdy, just like, the way Deebo Samuel's played, it's like, this is pretty disappointing. I think disappointing is the word I would land on.
It's certainly a good one. I think I'll land on mismanaged. And the reason why I say that is because I think the offseason was mismanaged. I think who they brought in, obviously Devondre Campbell being one of them after tonight, but I think just the way they mismanaged how to fix the offense during the year. And I get you can't make wholesale changes, but not being able to pivot, not being able to survive without Christian McCaffrey or Deebo Samuel when he's playing poorly, not being able to have a first-round pick in Ricky Pearsall and not get him involved in the offense, like that's like you're mismanaging the offense to me. On defense, you have Nick Sorensen, a guy that wasn't your first choice either, saying, here's the job and do what you can. That's mismanagement to me. You missed your first choice. You missed your second choice. Okay, here's your third choice. And he struggles for the most part, but in the biggest game of the year, they do well. And I think that Nick Sorensen's kind of locked in the job maybe for next year. Time will tell the next 3 weeks or so, but he's given himself a chance to keep his job at least. But I would say they've mismanaged this year. They mismanaged, I think, Christian McCaffrey snaps. Jordan Mason wasn't getting on the field much after that. Brock, the errant throws and the shoulder injury. This whole year just feels mismanaged for me.
Yeah.
Do you know the sensation I have felt this year? You know when you guys played baseball growing up, yeah?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
You know when you're really excited to play and then you wake up and you see like it's cloudy?
Oh, yeah.
And you're like, oh, man, it's going to rain.
Those 9 a.m. tournament weekends.
Yeah, dude, exactly. You're putting your uniform on and like you put on a sock and you look and you're like, is it raining? Oh, no. Like,
It's
dang
kind
it.
of humid outside.
Yeah, and you can just feel like, oh, my day's about to get ruined.
Oh, yeah.
That's what this has felt like since week 3. Like, they smoked that game against the Rams, and it was like, I don't like the direction this is heading. And then, okay, they beat New England. Oh, hey, is it clearing up a little bit? Oh, and then you blow a big lead to the Cardinals.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, no, that's a raindrop. And that's just kind of that's the sensation I have felt about the 49ers all year. Like, I've so badly wanted to get excited. I've so badly looked for reasons to be excited. I've so badly looked for that break in the clouds where the sun is coming through and, it was just overcast. And no, it's raining. It's pouring. Game's canceled. We're not getting this one in today, boys.
Yeah, I haven't thought of it that way, but now that you bring it up, it does feel right. And you get that pit in your stomach because you were so looking forward to, being able to run the bases and have a little bit of fun.
Yeah.
But now you don't even have that opportunity. To answer our caller's other question, which was high-priced veterans that may be on their way out, this is an interesting conversation, and it's going to fill so much time this offseason on 95.7 The Game and Niners talkers everywhere. I mean, the first name that pops to mind for me is Deebo Samuel, but the Deebo Samuel conversation is a little more difficult when it comes to the money, because if you just straight up cut him, the pre-June or July 2nd?
June 1. Pre-June 1.
June 1st. Pre-June 1st, the cap hit, or the dead cap hit, is so much higher than if you wait. And the reason why you'd want to wait, of course, is to save money. But the reason why you'd want to do it earlier is to be able to capitalize and sign free agents on money that you save. So that kind of makes it awkward in terms of how you handle the Deebo Samuel contract, because if you cut him before June 1st, you still have to pay out a big portion of that counts against you. If you wait, you don't owe as much. That makes it difficult. Oddly enough, I thought earlier in the season Talanoa Hufanga was going to be gone, but the way that he's played, I mean, they might re-sign him and have him be the starting safety alongside Malik Mustafa, and Jair Brown stays as a backup, and then when he's up for a contract, they don't re-sign him. And then another one that comes to mind, and this is not necessarily due to poor play, although he has not been great this year, it's Mooney Ward. I don't think there's space for him on this team in the future either, and you feel terrible for what's happened to him personally this year. But Renardo Green and Diamador Lenore seem relatively locked in for consistent roles on this team. I'm not so sure there's room for Mooney Ward. So the two veteran names I'd keep an eye on, Mooney Ward and Deebo Samuel.
Yeah, Trevarius Ward's a free agent. They just might not be able to afford him. I think you'll have a market that probably goes north of what they can or are willing to afford. The wrench in all this is Brock Purdy, because that's why it's been like, hey, you got to clear the decks. You've got $65 million coming in, and now it's looking like, yeah, hey, maybe that's closer to like 40. Maybe this looks maybe the structure of that deal is a little different. But no, I'm with you. I think Deebo as a post June 1 cut makes sense, because if you cut him pre June 1, and again, we'll get into the machinations of all this later, but they don't save any money if they cut him before June 1. They're just eating those dollars for nothing with no savings. Javon Hargrave, they just restructured his deal, so it's a lot cheap. It's cheaper to cut him after a post June 1. So that's a name I'm keeping an eye on. But yeah, Hufanga, Ward, and Dre Greenlaw are the really interesting ones, because they've all had absences this year for different reasons. The latter two, Greenlaw and Hufanga have had major injury issues here with the ACL and the Achilles and the wrist, and their free agent market's going to be really fascinating, because if they're affordable, I don't see why the Niners wouldn't retain both of them.
Yeah,
I've been thinking Hufanga's gone because he's going to be too expensive. Same thing with Dre Greenlaw. But as far as like cuts, I think high priced. I think it's Hargrave and Samuel are the two that you can circle and go, those guys are logically the ones who are out the door. Either pre or post June 1.
Deebo Samuel is really interesting, because if they move off of him post June 1st, then you're not getting draft pick compensation this year. Like, you're essentially giving him away for free or trading him for a 2026 draft pick, if a team even wants to do that. I would honestly talk to him and say, hey, Kyle Juszczyk took a pay cut. You aren't the same player. Do the same thing. If you say no, they have been open to moving off of him for 2 years in a row now. Like, they were rumored to trade him during the draft this past year. It was either Deebo or Brandon Ayuk, and they kept both. And I get why they did that. It makes sense, maximize this year, but they can't save $17 million in 2025 and 2026 if they cut Deebo post June 1st. So there can be some money savings, just not really, a lot in 1 year. But as Kyle pointed out, it all kind of relies on Brock Purdy. How much money do you give him? You can keep Javon Hargrave if Brock Purdy's not getting $65 million a year.
Exactly.
Which Hargrave, before he got hurt, was doing pretty well. And you tell me next year you have, whether it's Leonard Floyd or somebody else, and Ichiro Gross-Matos is back, and Bosa's there, and maybe Greenlaw's back, and Ufunga's back, and Hargrave's involved in the middle, and Malik Collins is still there. Like, I don't hate that defense at all. I'm like,
Sure.
okay, run it back. Like, you gave up 12 points tonight. Like, the momentum is building for the defense, and I'm starting to believe in them more, and I have for the most part of the season outside of third downs and the red zone. But I think Deebo Samuel's kind of the big one you ask, and you're just like, hey, like, you're not the same player you once were. We can realistically save money by letting you go. Take a pay cut, or you're gone. You are a detriment to this team currently. Like, you are actively hurting this team on social media and on the field. So pick one. You want to stay, you want to go. I think San Francisco, they got to narrow down Brock Purdy first, though. Like, that is the biggest, like, what if, and it changes the entire offseason of what they can and cannot do.
Yeah, and to be ultra clear on the Brock Purdy conversation, the Niners don't have to do anything with Brock Purdy this offseason. Right. Now, they need to figure out what their plan is, but their plan could be ultimately do nothing this offseason, push it off for another year, hell, maybe push it off for 2 more years, because they could do nothing this offseason, force Brock to play without a new deal on the last year of his rookie deal, and then franchise tag him in not this coming offseason, but the following offseason, and then go and do the following year and try to work out a new deal with him. That is a realistic timeline. Niners generally do not like to do that, but they are entering a time where maybe they have to be a little more ruthless than they have been in the past. So we will see how that all plays out. But you're right. The Brock Purdy decision, even if it is just we're going to decide next year, that decision has to be made before you do anything else. Let's go back out to the phone lines, 888-957-9570. Travis has been waiting patiently. He was at the game. Travis, I hope the traffic isn't too bad leaving Santa Clara. How you doing, Travis? Welcome.
What's up, boys? I'm doing horrible personally. I hope you all are doing well. It was wet. It's cold.
Sorry,
I'm at a McDonald's now in Union City. No, it's okay. It's just football. Yeah. Look, guys, I could probably talk you into the break. I got a couple of things. Let's throw some positivity. 2 shout-outs top of mind. Jake Moody, 2 for 2. Way to bounce back. He also did not have a penalty on the kickoff. Good job, Jake. I think personally you should consider taking the gin out of his mouth.
Game.
Yeah. So
he didn't shake any kickoffs.
Take the gin out of your mouth, because I think it's making him a bit wobbly. He's a littler guy. And then shout out to Drake Greenlaw. What a comeback. It sucks that I'm glad he's okay. I don't know if there's like an update on his injury, fatigue, and calf tightness. Good. Sick. It's fine. Okay. I wanted to talk about the offense. That's why I called in for. The game plan was atrocious. I'm not going to beat the dead horse here. Like, the whole first half, like, obsessive over Deebo, weird. Bizarre game plan. A lot of our offense, I feel, in Brock is predicated on getting into a rhythm, getting going. You can't do that when we're trying to force feed our new diva receiver, right? Mm-hmm. And the last thing that I do want to kind of flag or just bring up, and I would love your take on it, this fan base and the way we treat quarterbacks, I just don't understand. I'm 30 years old, so I miss Joe. My memory of Steve Young was the concussion he got that ultimately ended his career. Jeff Garcia, a little bit too young to really appreciate, and then some dark days, right? And then Alex Smith, Cap, Jimmy, and now Brock. No matter what he does, it's just not good enough. Yes, he was not good tonight. I'm not going to defend that. Not good. The bad decision to Jennings, but he's obviously hurt. People are calling it saying he's hurt. You know, we're talking about the roast. Shoulders are right. The elbows are right. Why is the heat not on Lynch and Shanahan for putting our alleged franchise quarterback behind Jake Brendel, Colton McKivett? I'm not going to hate on Trent Phenomenal, but he has not been great this year, right? He's hurt. He's banged up. He looks jittery because he has no time. He's fleshed out. He's ran more than ever this year. The O-line play this year has been atrocious. He's missing Ayuk. He's missing weapons. If you put anyone behind this line in this scheme this year, I don't know if it were that much better. The problem's bigger than Brock. The problem is guys like Deebo. You check. All these dudes who are making all this cash and not living up to it. That's all I got, guys. I hope you guys have a terrific holiday. God bless. Thank you for taking my call. I'm going to go give us McDonald's. I jumped out of a car in the drive-thru to take this call so it's not back noise. So y'all have a great night. Thank you very much.
Appreciate that, Travis. And really, really thankful for you trying to be a little bit positive, bring a little bit of positivity here. It only lasted for so long, and then you started talking about Brock and the offensive line. To Travis's point, I mean, he's flat out correct, and I think this is what you were talking about, Sterling, when talking about the one word to sum up this Niners season, and you said mismanaged. It was the lack of attention paid to the trenches on both sides of the football. And we could talk about the offensive line. Kyle, what do you think?
Well, I have a hard time saying that's mismanagement, and this is nitpicky. This is semantics. That's an organizational philosophy. They've proudly espoused that Kyle Shanahan has on the TK show and Odyssey podcast. And on and Chris Forster, the offensive line coach and running game coordinator, basically said, like, yeah, you can piece together an offensive line. You just need starters on the offensive line. What we care about is the guys who are going to score the touchdowns. Like we want those guys. And I think that I get it, but that's also silly.
That just feels like a misallocation of resources, though, doesn't it?
Yeah, especially when you already had George Kittle and you already had Brandon Ayuk and Debo Samuel. Like, okay, now you can invest in the offensive line. Like that's now you can do that. I don't. That's such a weird thing that they've continued, and what that has gotten them is Trey Sermon, Ty Davis Price, Danny Gray, Isaac Garendo, who wasn't playing up until two other players got hurt first.
Ronnie Bell, who's been dropped. Cut.
Ronnie Bell, right?
Thankfully,
I'm a little less nitpicky on the 7th round picks, but like these mid round picks,
Cameron Latu.
I would start. Cameron Latu's a great. Yeah, you picked a kicker, 99th. Like these are all picks that could have gone to the offensive line because I to the caller's point, the Chiefs' offensive line hasn't been great. Their tackles are kind of a mess, but on the interior they're very good. And you look at what the Lions have built. The Lions are gangsters because they can push around everybody on the offensive front. They're going to line it up and they're going to run it, and there's nothing you can do about it. Sorry, like here comes 5-6 yards of carry, and in the red zone they're going to run it 3 times. They're going to score a touchdown, and that's just how it's going to go.
And if it's 4th and 2, they're going to run it and pick up 3 yards.
Yeah, man. Yep. Like
not in the playoffs, though, baby.
Well, they tried to throw it on 4th down in the playoffs.
Thank you, Josh Reynolds. Thank you.
But yeah, so that's where I would like to see to Sterling's earlier point into that caller's point. That's something I'd like to see the 49ers change this offseason.
Yeah.
Is just wholesale investment in the trenches. You've got Juwan Jennings, you got another year of George Kittle. Your running back room is going to be freaking loaded. Like, take a break from the mid-round running backs and the mid-round receivers, and hit me with some offensive linemen, and maybe you find a couple of starters in there, and maybe you make life a little easier on your quarterback. But I think both things are true.
Yeah, and
the offensive line isn't great, but Purdy wasn't great tonight.
No, you're absolutely right, and I think maybe to make it fit Sterling's mismanaged word, maybe Kyle Shanahan, John Lynch and company might not view the lack of resources, spent on the offensive line. They wouldn't necessarily view that as mismanagement because that's their philosophy. But I think us three can all agree that is mismanagement. Like that was just absolutely the wrong decision for the Niners to go into this season with Jake Brendel as your starting center, Colton McKivitz as your starting right tackle, and hell, maybe even Aaron Banks as your starting left guard. Like it has not been great across the board for the 49ers on the offensive line. Okay, time for a break. We got plenty more time for your calls. We got a lot more to get into. The Niners fall to the Rams tonight, 12-6. Their season is essentially over, and Devondre Campbell quit on the team in the second half, refused to go on the field. Any at all thoughts? Welcome, 888-957-9570. Dylan and Eli, we're coming to you next as overtime continues. It's Mark Randy, Kyle Madsen, Sterling Bennett. More next on 95.7 The Game.
Hi, I'm Chris.
I'm David.
And I'm John.
to the 16-yard line. Puka Nacua got freebie. Javarius Ward, biggest play of the night.
Now back to overtime with Grandy, Madsen, and Bennett with sounds from the locker room and your calls at 888-957-9570. Overtime continues now.
One way to feel a little bit better after a rough Niners loss is listen to some of that new Kendrick. Appreciate Cam Williams for bringing us back with that to get us fired up as we possibly can be after this rough Niners loss. 12-6, the final score at Levi's tonight. The Rams come into Santa Clara and knock off the 49ers. Rams improved to 8-6. They are now nearing the top of the NFC West as they wait what happens with the Seattle Seahawks this weekend. The Niners fall to 6-8. Niners will stay last place in the division no matter what else happens this week. And their season is not officially over, but it is essentially all over for the 49ers this year. And guys, we've been talking a lot about Deebo Samuel, talking a lot about Brock Purdy, talking a lot about Devondre Campbell, who quit on this team, refused to go in the second half once Dre Greenlaw went down. I want to focus just for a second on a little bit of a positive, and that positive was watching Dre Greenlaw play football in the first half. Oh, my God. Yes. I don't know how you could watch that first half when the Niners were on defense, because offense was an entirely different story, but the Niners on defense, I could not stop smiling watching Dre Greenlaw flying around, was involved in like nearly every tackle. He was everywhere in that first half. And if I did not know any better, like if I just went into a coma before the Super Bowl and then just woke up tonight, I would have been convinced that Dre Greenlaw has been healthy all season and did not tear his Achilles. He looked as good as he always had in that first half.
Yeah, man, he was awesome. And it just it's so... The 49ers, when he was playing, had two of the 5 best off-ball linebackers in the sport.
Yeah.
And they were so perfectly, their skill set so perfectly fit what is needed to attack modern offenses. And I think missing Greenlaw was a huge reason the 49ers struggled this year. And they replaced him with a 32-year-old who can't move anymore, which is always a baffling decision. But it was so apparent just because he's clearly not 100%, but you see how he can move laterally and the way he gets downhill against the run and just how aggressive he is. It's like, man, thinking about an off-ball linebacker having that big of an impact, I don't know. But then you watch him and you go, man, they probably have 2 more wins this year if Dre Greenlaw's playing.
Yeah.
It's just different.
He has been sorely missed. The way he plays, how he plays, the energy in which he plays with, it's infectious. It makes me want to get up from my couch while watching on TV being like, yeah, I want to lay somebody out too. I want to play for that guy. like, watch out. No, but he just, you could the way, he got hurt running off the sideline onto the field in the Super Bowl, and it changed the entire game. They were locking down Travis Kelce. Mm-hmm. He had 1 catch for 1 yard. Arguably the greatest tight end in the last 20 years. He was a non-factor in that game until Greenlaw got hurt. And we've seen this year, and look, Devondre Campbell, his play has been subpar, to be nice about it. At times, he's played better this year. The last 4 weeks has been serviceable, but they've had a massive hole at that linebacker number 2 position. And you can tell the minute he stepped on the field tonight, that defense went from 15th or 20th to top 5 again. It felt like they were a monster that could stop anybody. And it gives you a glimpse as to what this season could have been and what next year hopefully will be for this team and this defense.
Yep. Yeah.
I get it. They had decisions to make, Hufanga, Greenlaw, Mooney Ward, Hargrave, and others. But if they can bring Dre Greenlaw back, the infectious nature in which he plays football, it permeates through everybody. And you talk about getting dogs back, being dogs. Hufanga's a dog. Greenlaw's a dog. You tell me 2 players you got to bring back next year? It's those 2 people.
Yeah, and talk about how beloved Greenlaw is in the locker room. This was Nick Bosa post-game tonight on Dre Greenlaw. Quote, "It was great to see him. He's probably my favorite teammate to ever play with in college and pros. He's an absolute dog, and he's showing it after a year of not playing and looking like that is pretty impressive. Nick Bosa, high praise for Dre Greenlaw, calling him his favorite teammate ever. And this is a guy in Nick Bosa who's played with a lot of really talented players, both at Ohio State and now with the 49ers as well. Let's go back out to the phone lines, 888-957-9570. As overtime continues, the Niners fall to the Rams today, 12-6. Their season not officially over, but it is basically over at this point at 6-8. Up next is Dylan in Sacramento. Dylan, what's up? You're on overtime. It's Grandy, Kyle, and Sterling with you. How you doing, Dylan?
Hey, how's it going, fellas?
We're hanging in there. How are you?
Same here. I'm usually a little negative, but I got inspired by some of the other callers to spread some positivity. So I wanted to say something positive about Devondre Campbell. According to Johnny Marks of Pro Football Focus, when Devondre Campbell was on the sideline in the second half, that was the closest he was to making a tackle all season. Also,
wow.
Also, that's about it. Now to get more negative, I'm going to say, I was a big Brock Purdy supporter. I'm a huge fan. I thought we had a franchise quarterback. Until, I'm still a fan, but today, the loss stings a little, and I have Steelers fans hitting me up on Twitter for arguments I made back in August where I told them they would be lucky to have Brock Purdy as their quarterback because they have bumps, Russell Wilson, Justin Fields, and now I have to eat it. And, it just makes this sting a little bit more.
That's fair. Yeah, Dylan, I feel you. And
Debo Samuel of your friend group right now.
Here's the thing with Brock, and I don't want to misconstrue this like I think he's bad at football or anything. I just think the 49ers need to ensure that if he's going to be their quarterback, it needs to be a really, really good infrastructure around him, because he's not going to be the player that he's not going to be Patrick Mahomes and winning a Super Bowl with whatever the heck that receiving core was last year, right? Like, he's going to need a really high quality offensive infrastructure. And I think to do that, they're going to need to allocate financial resources to players that they wouldn't be able to if he's making $55, $60, $65 million. And so it's finding that sweet spot of like, okay, you want this guy to be your franchise quarterback, that's fine, but you need to make sure you're supporting him the right way. But you also got to make sure he's paid. So finding where he's paid well enough, but also leaving enough meat on the bone where they can go get, they can invest in the offensive line, or they can go invest in a wide receiver or a second tight end or whatever it may be. That's where I'm at with Brock.
Well, let me ask you this, because, and like, I get what you're saying, and maybe the conversation becomes, and maybe Brock's side of it is open to the idea of, well, you know what? Like, it's not a bad thing to take a little bit less and allow the team to be a little better around me. Like, there's a legitimate argument for that. But like, I can point you towards the other game against the Rams this year, when Brock was without George Kittle, and Brock was without Deebo Samuel, and Brock was without Christian McCaffrey, and he put up 292, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. He was awesome in that football game. He was incredible in that game. He would have had 300-plus yards if Ronnie Bell could catch, and they would have won that game. Like, I know that there's been a larger sample of this season being average, subpar, way subpar for the standards Purdy has set for himself. But this is also just an abnormally bad game for Brock Purdy too, right? And I know, like, the way in which we're thinking of this is like the Bills game and the Seahawks game before that, and this game, like, it's a recent stretch of some relatively poor play, but legitimately against the same exact team earlier in the year. And I know the Rams offense week 3 was entirely different, but the Rams defense week 3 and the Rams defense now, similar. Like, this was a game that Brock Purdy absolutely dominated last time. It's not an excuse for tonight, but like, the ability is still obviously there.
Yeah, that's why I would still pay him money to be the quarterback. I'm not saying you got to cut the guy or saying you got to trade him. I don't think that you pointed to one game in week 3. There's
just
several other games.
Just because it was the same opponent. But yeah, there are other games too. Like last week against the Bears, he was very good.
The loss against Arizona, he wasn't very good. The New England game, he wasn't great. That was the week after that Rams game. Chicago, he was awesome. I thought he was about as perfect as a quarterback can be against Chicago. But that Buffalo game you mentioned, weird circumstances for sure, but still didn't play well. The Seattle game, he wasn't good. The week before that, like it's just he's not been so terrible that you're going, hey, you're not going to pay him. But to me, I went into the season going, yeah, he's probably going to make $60+ million next year. And he just hasn't played up to that level. And I think the 49ers should ensure that they're maximizing their resources to support him because he needs it. I don't think that's unfair.
Jostling with this question of which quarterbacks, what kind of quarterback will be able to fix the mess that are the San Francisco 49ers? Is it just Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes and Lamar Jackson? Is it just those tier 1 elite guys? Nah. Or can a tier 2 quarterback, say it was Sam Darnold this year is playing great, and Jordan Love this year, and Jalen Hurts, could those guys be able to pick this team up and carry them? And while you can have conversations of, well, one throw here, one throw there makes a difference, sure. Mm-hmm. You can argue arm talent here or there, fine. I just don't know, like, which quarterbacks in the tier that Brock is in, probably that tier 2 of quarterbacks, or below him, that could actually, like, lift San Francisco to a playoff run this year. I don't know who could. Like, that's what I'm like, okay, if you're going to pay him in the offseason, fine, and the market is the market, that's what it is. You know, you can't change it unless she's taking a pay cut or not going to get paid as much, but that's his choice, not the Niners' choice, right? He has to say yes or no to that. I just don't know which quarterback you can get you can pluck anybody in that tier that Brock's in or below it to say, yep, that guy makes a difference here this year. I'm not sure there is a quarterback that does that. And maybe that's me trying to justify paying Brock $65 million because they probably will, although I hope they don't. Brock has played really well at times where you're like, wow, that's a $65 million quarterback. I'm good paying that guy. But game on the line against the Cardinals, there was an interception. He hasn't been great since the bye week. He hasn't been great since the Dallas Cowboys game. That first half, he was terrible. He was good in the second half, but he hasn't been Brock Purdy. Now, maybe there's injuries you don't know about. Maybe there's things going on behind the scenes we have no indication of. But we don't know that, so we can't judge it. So if you're saying, would you pay Brock Purdy $65 million today? No. I have to see more. Tonight's game is an example I've seen too much of the last 6 weeks that won't let me buy into him completely just yet.
Yeah, the way I look at it is if you're going to pay a quarterback a record-breaking deal or anywhere near it, you should feel absolutely great about it. And when you think about paying Brock $60 million, even $55 million right now, your emotion, and I think I speak for the majority of Niner fans now, is not, yeah, we finally got the guy. He's the franchise quarterback for the next 6, 7, 8 years. It is, oh my God, how are we going to build a good enough roster around this guy when we're spending that much money on the quarterback?
Yeah.
And if you feel that way about a potential contract to that quarterback or to any player, you probably should not sign that player to that contract. So I think you guys are right in that the conversation shifts to then, okay, what is the number? And that's what the Niners are going to have to grapple with this offseason. Let's go back out to the phone lines, 888-957-9570. Eli is in San Ramon. Eli is up next. What's up, Eli? You're on Overtime on 95.7 The Game. How you doing? Eli, you there?
Hey, sorry about that. Hey, how you guys doing today?
We're hanging in there, Eli. How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing good. It was quite a wet game, and just trying to dry up. I kind of understand where you guys come from with the whole Greenlaw and Campbell situation. But you kind of have to feel for Campbell. I mean, like, dude was starting all year. Dude did decent. And, Greenlaw's Achilles didn't hold up. Like, I understand both sides of, like, the perspective, I would feel kind of, not really up to play if I was him.
Eli, I think we all flatly disagree with you. I don't understand Devondre Campbell's side at all, and every single person in that Niners locker room does not understand it. He was signed, as Sterling pointed out, the very beginning of the show, he was signed to be the starting linebacker next to Fred Warner until Dre Greenlaw returned. Dre Greenlaw returned tonight, and then once Devondre Campbell was needed again, he did not want to play, and he let every single one of his teammates down to that locker room. Every single one of them. And as far as I'm concerned, Devondre Campbell is stained for the rest of his career, and I would not be shocked, as you guys both have said, if he never gets another job in the NFL as a result. There are few things in an NFL locker room that hurt your reputation more than quitting on your team. And that is what Devondre Campbell did when his team needed him, and there's no coming back from that.
Is there another layer to this, though? And, Mark, I agree with you. I agree with my take from the beginning of the show. So
I agree with me.
Yeah. But again, playing devil's advocate, I wonder if it's not the Dre Greenlaw return that's the problem. I wonder if it is the Niners electing to start D. Winters over him. Like, why can't I play with Greenlaw and Fred?
Well, too bad. Be better, Devondre.
I mean, again, I agree with you, Mark, but I wonder if I wonder if San Francisco offered him, hey, we'll play you all three together, but you're not going to play the position you played all year. Like, we have no idea what the conversations behind the scenes were, but the fact is that he told the team, I'm not playing, and when he got a chance to re-enter the game at the spot he's had all year, when Greenlaw couldn't go, okay, like, now's your chance to walk in there and take your spot again and prove, hey, I should be playing more even if Greenlaw's healthy. He's like, no, I'm good. Like, you effectively took yourself out of the game and also maybe took yourself out of the rest of your career. Like, it's a dumb decision by a player that his career is like hinging on this year.
Yeah, if the whole Sam linebacker thing, that's not a position he'd played in this defense. That could have been a mess, a real mess if they put him out there.
Been pretty fun to watch,
though. Maybe. But like, if this isn't he got mad at practice this week and said, well, if I'm not starting, then I'm not suiting up, and he was a healthy scratch. Okay, then I'll see what the caller's saying, and oh yeah, you know what, he was mad, and he said he didn't want to play. Like, okay, but he suited up. His team was relying on him. He was one of their 46 dudes who was active.
Yeah, you wasted a spot on him.
Yeah, and he said no. You've got people putting their bodies and lives on the line, and you're just going to not play because your feelings are hurt? I'm sorry, that the culture of football, that doesn't fly, man. You can't do that. That is just, and I don't know if you guys saw the Josina Anderson tweet. Josina Anderson, who's with whatever she does now, The Exhibit. No, there's no need to jump on to instant job loss. She's responding to Travarius Ward. He should be given time to share his mindset, to commune with his teammates after more time to reflect and to demonstrate better judgment. He had a week to reflect. You've been known Dre Greenlaw was going to come back. Commune with his teammates? He left his teammates. You don't get to commune after you bounce. That sucks. What, he did a bad thing. There's no more communing. These guys went out there. They put it on. Fred Warner is out there. Yeah, one of you guys, I forget which one, said this earlier. You got Fred Warner out there playing with a broken ankle, putting it all on the line every single day for the 49ers. Nick Bosa playing through an injury. You got Brock Purdy potentially playing through an injury. I don't know if I agree with that, by the way. But anyways, you got guys banged up, beat up, playing, and I didn't get to start when I thought I should.
Charvarius Ward is playing shortly after the death of his child.
Yeah.
And it's Charvarius Ward who said, it definitely hurt the team. He's probably going to get cut soon. And that's the answer that Josina Anderson is responding to. This is the dude, Mooney Ward, despite the on-field struggles, has shown up for his team in his moment of mourning. I can't imagine what Mooney Ward is going through. I can't imagine what Trent Williams is going through. And you are healthy. You're available to play. You don't say anything about your desire to not play until the game is actually going on and you are dressed. Oh, my God. You are done. Get out of the league, not just the organization. Get out of the league. You are never playing football again.
Yeah, man. Like, look, Deebo Samuel struggling and talking on Twitter and struggling on the field. Okay, fine, whatever. Like, we can be mad about that and we can discuss it. Brock Purdy being up and down this year, we can talk about it. We can discuss it. The Devondre Campbell thing, it's not a discussion for me. This isn't a let's see his viewpoint.
I'm with you.
Like, that's it. This is cut. This is dry. That is, it's as easy as it gets, man. That was terrible.
And, like, what could the viewpoint even be? Why am I not playing? Well, Dre Greenlaw's back. But, okay, what? But what? Today, Junior, you're not going to play. Like, I'm sorry. You're not as good as Dre Greenlaw, even when he's off a torn Achilles. And it showed in one half what this defense could look like when you are not playing.
The Rams scored 44 points against the Bills last week. At halftime, they had 3.
Okay. Devondre Campbell against the Rams literally got called for a DPI in week 3 that cost San Francisco the game as well.
Yeah,
like, against the same team, he was terrible. And that offense was way worse then. Like, Devondre Campbell has played worse against backups to backups than, like, why would you even think you have the right to start over a near all-pro player that has been on the NFL top 100 list twice? That was the reason they were shutting down Travis Kelce in the Super Bowl. Like the goal to be like, I should play over that guy. You want to play over Fred Warner too? Like, do you want Robert Beal to play over Nick Bosa? Like
so
what is the mindset? Like, let's see how it feels. I dare him to walk back in to practice this week. I dare him. He will get booted out of that locker room so fast. It'd be rightfully deserved.
He's not walking back into practice because he's not going to be on the roster. I think that's kind of the bottom line.
Yeah, I guarantee you at some point you'll hear the breaking news sounder here on 95.7 The Game tomorrow morning, and it will be Devondre Campbell cut by the Niners.
I expect that roster move to happen with the quickness.
Yes.
I do love the idea that Devondre Campbell, and this says a lot about what the 49ers thought about Devondre Campbell, that he said, well, if he starts, I'm not going to play. And they went, okay, great. So Drake Greenlaw is going to start.
Bye.
All right, man, we'll see you in the second half. Like, what?
Made that easier for us, I guess.
Yeah, so that's why I'm not gonna turn this into a bigger thing about the state of the 49ers.
Yeah,
and it's not a good thing that it happened, but it was really clear that, hey, this is a guy who was here for one season, was only going to start until Dre Greenlaw came back, and then when that thing happened that he was here for, he quit.
Yeah, And at one point, this dude was an all-pro when he was with the Packers. But remember, last offseason, shortly after he signed with the Niners, aired his dirty laundry with the Packers for all to see on social media. So this isn't necessarily like a terrible surprise, I guess you could say. You don't expect that. But if you were maybe to guess it happening, you might have pinpointed that guy for it to happen with. But we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we got more to get into. We got some more calls to get to. Lars, I see you, Craig, and Telmo as well. We're coming to you on the other side. The Niners fall to the Rams today in Santa Clara, 12-6, and their season essentially over. We got more to get into. It's overtime with Grandy, Kyle, Sterling. More next on 95.7 The Game.
Ever find holiday shopping?
the running back. Purdy going for it all, and it's going to be picked off in the end zone. Darius Williams on an overthrow, and the Rams get the takeaway.
Now back to overtime with Grandy, Madsen, and Bennett, with sounds from the locker room and your calls at 888-957-9570. Overtime continues now.
Welcome back. That was Al Michaels on Amazon. If you were watching here in the Bay Area, you probably watched it on your local Fox affiliate or wherever you watched it. It was Al Michaels calling the action, and that was the Brock Purdy interception, looking for Juwan Jennings in the fourth quarter. It was a Niners deficit at that point, down by 3, 9-6. They were driving, at the very least, looking for a field goal to tie the game. But instead, they throw an interception, and then the Rams get the ball. And what happened, Sterling, was, I think, basically what we all expected to happen, because the Niners offense did not touch the ball once again from that moment on. It was the interception, and then just Kyren Williams, like for 4 yards, every single carry, it felt like. A couple of completions, a big third down conversion here or there, and the Rams essentially killed the entire clock. It got a field goal to take a 6-point lead. Niners had a chance for a Hail Mary, but couldn't really get anything off. Brock Purdy was sacked, and the game was over. At that point, you don't really blame the defense because they were on the field so often in that second half. You're down Greenlaw, as we talked about. Devondre Campbell refused to go in the game. So many things working against the defense in that moment. But that Brock Purdy interception was backbreaking, and they never had an opportunity to redeem themselves. And the way that game went, Sterling, even if they did have the chance to redeem themselves, it might not have mattered. That's how bad of a day it was for the offense.
Yeah, let's say they had, I don't know, a minute and a half left on that final drive that ends in a sack, funny enough. Do we even believe they'd make that drive?
Probably not.
Go all the way down? Like, okay, like, we'll maybe like, oh yeah, we have a chance. But it's like, really? Do you really? But it is fitting that you brought up Kyren Williams, who after the game told the media that we're the big brothers now in regards to sweeping the San Francisco 49ers for the first time since 2018.
3 straight wins
I go,
over the Niners.
And they've earned it. Now, one of those games is a backup game. And
yes.
You could argue that, okay, well, they didn't have Christian McCaffrey, didn't have Brock Purdy, or Brandon Ayuk. They had Brock Purdy. Didn't have Brandon Ayuk. Didn't have George Kittle and Deebo Samuel for the one early in the year. Like, there's reasons as to why San Francisco lost, and injuries is a big one for sure. But the Niners offense today, 191 total yards. That is the lowest by a Kyle Shanahan offense in his entire 49ers tenure.
And that includes some terrible teams.
And that includes that terrible mud game in Washington in 2019 where it was 9-6, I think. Like, we're talking about Brian Hoyer and CJ Beathard and Nick Mullins and the elements and Trey Lance that, I mean, everything that this team has been through, this was the worst offensive output they have ever had. A very fitting end to their season, which isn't even over yet. And funny enough, they still kind of have a shot.
Yeah,
they have a shot, Mark.
They
got a chance, brother.
Stop it. I will not have any of that. The season is over, Sterling.
Come on, Mark. It's not over yet. It's not over until Devondre Campbell sings. And from what I can tell, he ain't singing anytime soon.
Not singing for the Niners.
Tell you,
go ahead. Tell me how it'll happen. Yes.
Just to give the fans.
They need like 27 things to happen, all go their way, probably.
Okay. The Niners have to win out, which includes games against the Dolphins, the Lions, and the Cardinals.
Okay.
They have to have the Commanders lose at least 3 games. Okay.
That's 3 of their final 4.
Yes. The Cardinals have to lose in Week 15 against the Patriots or Week 16 at Carolina, which isn't maybe out of the question. Carolina's playing better. And Drake May looks legit in New England, albeit the team isn't that good. The Rams have to lose their next 3 games, and the Falcons have to lose at least 2 of them. I know all of those things may not happen, but the Falcons aren't playing well. The Cardinals aren't a great team. And maybe, just maybe, the rookie season of Jaden Daniels falls apart late, although not likely. If you're looking for a smidge of hope, and maybe you're out there being like, let's be positive, there it is. You still got a chance somehow if you want to cling to that.
So what you're telling me is now the only way it happens is via a wild card spot. You need everybody fighting for a wild card spot to lose a chunk of games because you're not catching the Rams or the Seahawks atop the NFC West.
Yeah, you had to win today to hopefully then be able to beat the Cardinals in Week 18 to even your division score. You lost today. You're 1-4 against the division. You're 0-3 against the NFC West at home this season.
Man.
Just an atrocious season by the San Francisco 49ers. And maybe this Devondre Campbell stuff can unite them, though. Could you imagine, just hear me out, could you imagine if they beat the Lions this year?
That would be a Christmas miracle.
Like, what? Like, they're that angry and they're like, we're going to go out there and spoil someone's season. What if they beat the Lions?
Considering the Lions will very likely need to win that game to get home field and the bye, the 1 seed in the NFC, that would shock me like nothing has shocked me in a very long time. That's how bad this Niner football team is at the moment. You're right, though. I mean, it could be a unifying moment. Everybody hating on Devondre Campbell. That could be something that helps, but I don't think it helps bridge the gap between what this Niner team is and what that Lions team is. So,
well, it makes me wish he would have quit 4 weeks ago because then he would have had a better shot to make a run.
Still have something to play for, a realistic shot. Yeah, come on, Devondre. If you're going to be a bad teammate, do it a month ago, not now. We're going to hear from some Niners players, and we'll hear Shanahan again on Devondre Campbell, but we got a couple of callers that are waiting that I know want to talk about Devondre Campbell as well. Up first is Lars in Pacifica. Lars, what's up? You're on Overtime here on 95.7 The Game. What do you want to say about Devondre Campbell?
Hey, guys. Thanks for taking my call. I was at the game. My voice is a little hoarse because I was yelling so much. So I was just so upset and mad with this Niner team. But I think we need to put some things in perspective here. We've had 2 players lose a child, and they are not complaining, and they are going to work and getting their job done. We've had a player almost get shot and killed in a robbery, come back and play football, and this guy is mad that he's played horribly the entire year, and he's going to be a crybaby and say, oh, just because Dre Greenlaw is back, I'm mad they're playing D winners, even though he's 10 pounds more athletic than me. Like, give me a break. This is a disgrace to anybody who's ever put on a football helmet and has been on a Band of Brothers, which is a football team. Devondre Campbell is emotionally weak, and he is a disgrace to anybody who's ever played on the San Francisco 49ers. And I just couldn't believe it. I didn't even know that had happened until I was listening to 95.7, sitting in the parking lot waiting to leave. And I just can't believe that he quit on this team when that's just unacceptable at any level of football. That's all I got. I'd love to hear your guys' take on those things. And it's just ridiculous. And I hope he never plays for another down for the Niners ever again.
Yeah, Lars, I think you're 100% right in everything that you said. And I know you're waiting for our response. I mean, I don't have a ton to add. You are 100% spot on. And, you know, I've never played football at a high level, played a little bit growing up. And, you know, you get the sense that even at a lower level, the camaraderie around a football team is different than the camaraderie around any other sports team you play. Like, it's one thing, you know, in basketball, another thing in baseball, and, you know, some of these other smaller sports, like it pales in comparison to like the brotherhood that you form on a football team. And again, this is coming from someone who never played football at a high level, but just being around college football teams, professional football teams, you can sense it. And that's why this is so offensive to everybody in that locker room. And these are the kinds of players and the kinds of people that the Niners in the Shanahan and Lynch era, Sterling, have actively tried to avoid over and over and over again. And they if you got a truthful answer out of them this offseason when they signed Devondre Campbell, they might have told you they were worried that he wasn't necessarily like a fit in terms of who the guy is, not who the player is. They probably had concerns on that as well. Like, you were scrambling to try to find a starting linebacker in a free agent class that wasn't great. And by the way, you didn't have a ton of money to spend anyway. You had to try to be creative. And they were probably forced into a decision, into signing a guy they didn't really believe in, maybe both as a player and as a person. But what else were they going to do? They needed somebody, so maybe they sacrificed some of their beliefs in terms of the kind of guy they want to bring in. And you saw what happened today. He hurt the 49ers in a way that few other football players have hurt them. It's one thing if you're just having a bad day, or simply if you don't have the ability, like, okay, like, that's understandable. That might still get you cut. Like, hello, Ronnie Bell, it got you cut. You're simply not good enough. Sorry, but like, it is what it is. That's more respectable than just quitting on the football team. And that's what Devondre Campbell did. He could be the best player in the NFL. You quit on your football team in the middle of a game that you have to win. You're gone. Sorry, out of here. Goodbye. It just makes it easier because Devondre Campbell at this point in his career is also not a very good football player.
And maybe it's because of our connection to this team, but this team, this roster, these players have been through so much together as a unit. They've lost 2 Super Bowls, lost multiple heartbreaking NFC Championship games. They've been to the brink and have somehow found their way eliminated in the last seconds. And they've been through the injuries. Again, children being lost and being shot, and just a cumulative pile of just terrible things that have happened to you on and off the field the past 4 or 5 seasons or so. So the bond of these players is so tight that we have been through so much together, and we're going to go through anything and everything together as a group, as a unit. Like, this team is what you want your roster to be compiled of. People so bought into each other that, okay, we're not having a great year. We're now 6-8, but we're going to see this through. If we don't make the playoffs, that sucks, and we're going to hope to revamp next year and come back at it once again. Devondre Campbell essentially told the team tonight that I'm not one of you, that I don't want to be one of you, that I'm an outsider that was brought into a group to play for 13 games, and I did my job. You didn't respect me, and I'm going to say goodbye. When in fact, the San Francisco 49ers were the perfect fit for Devondre Campbell in regards to an opportunity to revitalize his career. Like, nobody else wanted him. And he was like, okay, but now he's taking advantage of that. Well, you have burned a bridge that you desperately needed to have. And, I mean, there's not really much else to say. He's not been great this year. He's in his early 30s, which is pretty old for a linebacker. He's slow, not a great coverage linebacker, is not great against the run anymore. Like, there really is no reason to carry Devondre Campbell on the roster or any for forever now. Like, this is it. It's over. And he's going to go on his own terms. And unfortunately, his terms aren't very good. They're pretty bad.
Yeah. Not much else to say. Let's let Kyle Shanahan say it. Here's what Shanahan said post-game about Devondre Campbell.
What happened with Devondre Campbell? He didn't play and he went into the locker room at some point?
Yeah, he said he didn't want to play today.
Play today?
Yep.
The coaching staff?
He did when I asked him why he didn't want to go in. So.
During the game or before?
No, that was in the third quarter.
Has that ever happened to you where players said they didn't want to play in a game?
No.
He got demoted for this game, right? I mean, he was not going to play.
No, he was gonna go in when Dre came out.
Will you release Devondre Campbell?
We'll figure out something, but I don't know that right now.
Did he give you any reason why you didn't want to play today?
No.
Campbell, I mean, to hear players say, I don't want to play today, does that create dissension, especially knowing that at this point in the season, with the type of season that this has started out to be, you kind of need as much camaraderie as possible to be successful? Does that create dissension amongst the team, or did it not really affect anyone? Did no one really notice?
People notice, but when someone says that, you move on. You don't deal with that anymore.
So that was Kyle Shanahan post-game on Devondre Campbell. What about one of the leaders of the team, Brock Purdy, starting quarterback on Devondre Campbell?
Yeah, I had no idea. I mean, obviously, I'm trying to focus on the offense and where we're at. I didn't know until after the game, to be honest, that Devondre, was not playing. And, I don't really know what to say to that. So,
Similar answer, I think, here from Nick Bosa on Devondre Campbell.
I didn't know till now, but until I know more about the situation, I'm not going to talk about it.
Nick Bosa doesn't want to talk about it. There is also this from George Kittle, who was asked about Devondre Campbell postgame. Here is Kittle.
I didn't really hear anything about it until I got in the locker room, so it's all brand new information to me. Look, if you're on the roster, and you suit up, you're expected to play. I think anyone in this building that got asked to go in, I would say 100% of everybody would die to get on that football field. And so, people are going through random things off the field. I can't speak on that. Whatever, his decision was, it wasn't for this organization. It wasn't for this team. And no, that's on him. So, not very happy about it. I would have something to say. I wish I would have heard about it on the field, but I didn't. Is that the reason we lost? Absolutely not. But it's hard to win football games when someone doesn't want to play football, especially when you're suited up. It kind of puts you down, especially when you lose two linebackers, and could address another one.
Here's one more from George Kittle on Devondre Campbell.
That is one person who just decided not to, play for his teammates, and I don't think that doesn't make our offense look at each other and be like, wow, man, we're falling apart. It's more of or like the defense, hey, we're falling apart. It's more of one person making like Mooney said, a selfish decision, and I'm with Mooney on that. And I've never been around anybody that's ever done that, and I hope I'm never around anybody that does that again.
Strong words from George Kittle about what Devondre Campbell did, and if you missed it, he refused to go in the second half once Dre Greenlaw had to check himself out because of fatigue in his calf after he came back from his Achilles injury. And it does not seem serious. Seems like Dre Greenlaw is going to be fine, which is great news there. But in the moment, you needed a linebacker, and Devondre Campbell did not step in. You hear a team leader, Sterling, like George Kittle, have strong words like that. It's very rare you get that kind of tone from George. He is always the upbeat guy who's trying to take the positive side of things. He could not spin that positively, and so many of his other teammates essentially refused to comment on it because they had nothing nice to say. George Kittle as openly negative about something in that locker room as we have ever heard him. That this is a big deal.
Good, and they should be. You should not stand for what Devondre Campbell did in any locker room, on any team. If you don't want to be here, don't be here, fine. But it's funny and very fitting that Devondre Campbell's last tweet states, no matter what you do in life, people are going to have an opinion about you, so you might as well just do it your own way and live with the results. That was 8 days ago on December 4th. Well, Devondre, you did it your own way, and you're living with the results. What a mentality to live by. I get it. Be your own man. Make your own choices. Fine. I get that. Be a little proud. Cool. You want to go out there with confidence? Fine. You want to create your own path? Great. You are an older, aging, over the hump, past your prime 33, 32-year-old linebacker that can't afford to do things his own way. His own way is not working. And tonight you want to go out there and quit on your team. Fine. Live with the result. Never play in the league ever again. If that's what you want, fine. And look, if Devondre Campbell is going through something that we have no idea about personally, we wish him the best. If it's something insane and crazy, which 2024, I wouldn't put it past it. If that is the case, we wish him, take care of yourself, brother. We want that. But if it is simple as I didn't get to start because Dre Greenlaw came back and I refused to go in, and the way Shanahan worded that didn't sound like it was only in the third quarter. It sounded like he was supposed to go in when Dre came out. San Francisco, if you believe the reports early in the morning by, I think, Ian Rappaport, said that they were going to ease him in.
Yep.
So they were going to start him.
He played the majority of snaps in the first half. Greenlaw did.
Right. So my assumption was that wasn't the plan, but he felt good enough to play the whole first half.
Yeah.
And so they were going to relieve him with Devondre Campbell, and Greenlaw said, no, I'm good to go. And at that point, when Greenlaw was like, hey, like, my leg's acting up, that's when Campbell said, no, not happening. Which is also an insane thing to do. Like, you're the next man up, man. Like, that's your job. Now they have to play Demetrius Flanagan-Foles, who's even a bad special teamer in the biggest game of the year. Like, what do you, like, it's just a mind-numbing decision by a grown adult at their job. If me and you decided to not come into work one day because we didn't want to, we'd probably get a call by our boss like, what's going on?
Well, that's one thing. It would be showing up, like, to use me as an example, it would be showing up to help run our afternoon show, and the second our afternoon show starts, tap out and go home. Right. Like, it's one thing to not show up. It's one thing to call in ahead of time and say, hey, boss, can't make it in today. Sorry. Right. Not feeling up to it. You give, your boss enough time to figure out, plan B, but you show up, you suit up, essentially you're ready to go when called upon, and then when you're called upon, nope, sorry, bye-bye. Like, no, you're gone. You're gone. It's over. It's over. And that's what Devondre Campbell did today when Dre Greenlaw couldn't keep going in the second half. Let's sneak in one more call before we get on out of here. Craig in San Leandro has been waiting patiently. Craig, we appreciate your patience. Take us home, Craig. What do you want to talk about?
Okay, now, I can't believe that you all have spent this inordinate amount of time talking about one guy. I can't believe it. Instead of talking about why this team is broken and what it's going to take to fix it. The game is won and lost in the trenches. In the trenches. That's where the game is won and lost. A Swiss cheese offensive line has come back to haunt us. Our offensive line, they cannot pass protect. Most of the time, Purdy is running for his life. They cannot run block. When our running backs run into the line, they run into a brick wall. When their running back runs into our line, they gouge us for 5, 6, and 7 yard runs on first down. Let's stop talk. This is not golf. This is not tennis. Is DeAndre Campbell the reason we lost this game tonight and the reason we've gone from the Super Bowl to the toilet bowl?
No, he's not the only reason, Craig. And appreciate the call. And you are right. And we have talked about it. We spent a lot of time on Devondre Campbell because, newsflash, it's a big deal when a football player quits on his team in a must-win football game. But you're right, Craig. I mean, the offensive line has been bad all year.
Yeah, Jake Brendel stinks.
Jake Brendel, not a starting caliber center in the NFL. I can say the same thing about a couple of other starters on the offensive line as well.
Colton
McKivitz. Yeah, Colton McKivitz. Those are the two I was thinking of. There are a lot of issues that this team has to address this offseason because this season was an absolute, undeniable failure. And that's on multiple fronts. On multiple fronts. There is no denying that. Craig, appreciate your enthusiasm. You are 100% right. And we've addressed many of the things that you brought up.
The toilet bowl.
They are headed to the toilet bowl. They're going to go from first place in their division to last place.
So do we flush it and empty the septic tank out this year?
Yes.
I'm going to have to, right, in the offseason.
Yes, you have to.
Clean that puppy out.
You got to.
Stank.
Don't know what the other option is for the 49ers at this point. And it's going to be a really interesting offseason ahead. They still got 3 games left. You got the Dolphins, and then you've got the Lions. And I see this on the Comcast Business text line as well, the 650, talking about a path to the playoffs. There is still a path to winning the division, believe it or not, because the teams atop the division have 8 wins. If they lose out, the Niners win out. The Niners would have 9 wins. Those teams would have 8. So there is a chance that the Niners could still win the NFC West. But it is very, 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 very unlikely because you need every result to go your way the rest of the season for those teams and for the Niners. So not great, but it is certainly possible. Sterling, I'm not even going to ask for game balls in this one because it was that bad of a performance on the offensive end. The one thing I will say before we get on out of here is it was just so... It was just so good to see Dre Greenlaw play football once again, and I missed watching that dude fly around and to see him alongside Fred Warner, even though Fred's playing on a fractured ankle. It was good to see the best linebacker duo in the NFL play next to each other once again for at least the half of football. And even if the rest of this season is bad and they lose the final 3 games, I will take solace in potentially watching Dre Greenlaw play 3 more games this year.
2025, it can't come fast enough.
Yeah.
Fred, Christian McCaffrey, Dre Greenlaw.
Maybe. I mean, they got to sign Greenlaw this offseason.
Oh, they'll do it. They saw what happened tonight. The revitalization process has begun, Mark, with a loss against the Rams 12-6.
Oh, I hope you're right.
This is the start of something new.
I hope you're right. All right. That's all the time we got for tonight. But make sure you stay locked on 95.7 The Game all day tomorrow. It's 11 o'clock, so we got 6 hours from now when Spadoni takes over for the pregame show, and then Bonte and Shasky, the morning roast, 6 to 10. Steiny and Goo, 10 to 2. Willard and Dibbs from 2 to 6. And then Sterling and I will be back for the football hour, 6 to 7 tomorrow night. So it's football all day tomorrow on 95.7.
Devondre Campbell the whole time, just for Craig.
Yeah, there you go, Craig. Tune in, Craig. Tune in from 6 to 7.
Warfare and Devondre Campbell.
We will be talking more about Devondre Campbell, I am sure. Okay, that's all the time we got today. For Sterling Bennett, for Kyle Madsen, for Cam Williams, for Steven Risotto, my name is Mark Randy signing off. A rough loss for the Niners, but we appreciate all you for tuning in. We'll talk tomorrow here on 95.7 The Game.
Hey, it's Guru, and you know I love Price.